I'm Trayon White, Sr., Ward A Council Member and Chair of the Committee on Recreation, Libraries, and Youth Affairs. Today is Wednesday, February the 7th, 2024. We are meeting remotely using the Zoom platform. The time is now 9:34 a.m., and I'm calling to order this performance oversight hearing on the DC Public Libraries. The DC Public Library was created in 1896 by Act of Congress. The library was established as an independent agency that would serve as the People's University. The DC Public Library supports residents with services and programming, books, and other library materials, in line with the library's Know Your Neighborhood strategic plan. Prioritizes reading, support new readers, and cultivate a love of reading. By cultivating a love of reading, digital citizenship, preparing residents for life online, strong communities, and ensuring neighborhood libraries are vital centers of community learning and civic engagement. Local history and culture, fostering an understanding and appreciating of what makes DC unique. The DC Public Library includes a central library and 25 neighborhood libraries, and also provides library services inside of DC jail. Most library buildings are flexibly designed to accommodate a variety of programs that support community learning. In addition, the library continues to reach residents in non-traditional settings that include schools, restaurants, houses of worship, and significantly online DC library options. We will start off today with our public witnesses and go on to our government witnesses. If you are in a personal capacity, you get 3 minutes. If you are in a ANC, Advisory Neighborhood Commission or official agency, you would get 5 minutes. Our first public witness, we'll start off bringing this first group to the panel. Mark Patterson, President of Friends of Juanita Thornton Shepherd Park Library. Robert Oliver, President of Federation of Friends of DC Public Library. Carlos Azuera, President of Friends of Mount Pleasant Library. Sabrina Rhodes, Commissioner 5D02. Mark, if you're here, you can go ahead, and if you have a testimony, you can go and get started.
This is Robert Oliver. I'm not sure if Mark is there right now. He did call me and let me know that he will attend, he will testify, but he may not be available to be one of the first speakers.
Well, I am here, Robert.
Oh, you are? I'm sorry.
That's right. I was on mute.
Okay.
4 years and we still haven't gotten this right.
It'd be like that. Oh, good.
All right. Oh. Here we go. Well, now I can start. Chairman White and members of the committee, thank you for conducting this oversight hearing. My name is Mark Patterson, President of the Friends of the Juanita E. Thornton Shepherd Park Library. For the past 3 years, I have testified at performance oversight and budget hearings on DCPL, primarily about DCPL's recommendation to close our branch. But thanks to the actions of this committee and its members and of the full council, the Ward 4 Libraries Act is now law, allocating the necessary funds for a new library in the vicinity of Kennedy Street Northwest, and keeping the Shepherd Park Library in its present location and not using a temporary closing as a pretext for a permanent closing. And for that, all the friends and I thank you. However, there are still a few bugs in DCPL's performance that deserve scrutiny. Point one, DC residents are still troubled by the specter of COVID. Library branches now close at 8 p.m. As a result, meeting room use is down. But DCPL doesn't do district residents any favors with the conditions and costs that go with meeting room usage. Library staff can't use DCPL money to buy food, so they ask the friends for treats for the end of the summer reading program party. But at some branches, it's like pulling teeth if an organization seeks a waiver to have food at its meeting. The rental fees and the "you must use our caterer" charges that go with using the top floor at MLK are way out of the reach of many nonprofits. You see, charging money can be just another form of discrimination. Case in point, an upcoming day-long program funded by DC Humanities featuring African American authors in DC who write books for young people. MLK was so costly that it's being held at Trinity Washington University. Would have been a great fit for DCPL, but now instead it's just a wasted opportunity. Point two, as an officer of the Federation of Friends of the DC Public Library, I'm the vice president. I've got a bone to pick with the branch enrichment fund that DCPL cooked up a couple of years ago. It's nice that the DCPL Foundation will match whatever friends groups contribute to branch libraries that have no friends group, a brand new friends group, or a group at a branch in an economically distressed neighborhood. But I'll say this, individual friends groups are not the fundraising juggernauts DCPL must think we are. In Shepherd Park and for many other friends groups, we keep our dues low to allow more people to join. Our used book sales charge just $1 per item to get more books and media in people's hands rather than keep them sitting in an inaccessible basement room. Foundation, meanwhile, has nice direct mail fundraising systems and fancy dress-up parties on the top floor of MLK. I'd wager that all the friends groups combined don't match the annual take of the foundation. Point three, a legal opinion that we, or anybody, can't give DCPL employees a gift whose value is worth more than $10. $10? I mean, that'll barely get you a Sat-Sack Happy Meal at McDonald's. We appreciate the work our librarians do. You know, and I know that they don't get near enough pay for the work that they do. So what's a lunch or dinner going to do? Bribe them to do our bidding? Hardly. If DCPL won't pay for their memberships in professional associations, why not the Friends? Raise the cap, maybe eliminate it. Point four, DCPL has a prohibition against library staff handling money. Last April, I had to go to a library in Montgomery County, which has no such ban, for a senior Smart Trip card. It cost all of $2. Well, WMATA has since made senior Smart Trip cards free. It would be a great service to district seniors if they could pick up a free Smart Trip card at their neighborhood library. Books are free to borrow. COVID test kits are free to take. Let's add Metro Smart Trip cards to the mix. Point five, and last, crime and rowdiness in and near our libraries deserve serious attention. I proposed free distribution of Smart Trip cards because it would drive people into the library. But violence and the threat of violence drives people away from the library. The events of 2022 highlighted a tragic shortcoming of the library system. But now with the hiring of Tonya Chapman as DCPL security chief, I believe we are seeing a change for the better. I've seen security officers inside our neighborhood library more in the past 4 months than I had in the previous 4 years. I have a feeling in my gut, though, that the security force is not as extensive as it should be, and that DCPL may have to juggle several budget balls to offer services, amenities, and security. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. I'll come back to you in a second. We're going to go to Mr. Oliver.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for letting me speak. And I want to say that Mark has brought up a lot of valid issues, but it's all not gloom and doom. Basically, I just wanted to mention that some of the collaborative efforts that DCPL and the Friends have done. Just want to start by saying the District of Columbia Public Library and the Federation of Friends of the DC Public Library have collaborated to build Friends membership following the impact and legacy of the COVID-19 pandemic. The January 2020 was the official start of the pandemic, followed by a shutdown commencing March 12, 2020 in the United States. The effect was twofold. First, the neighborhood library's gate count totaled 3,820,000 in fiscal year 19, but the gate count only totaled 803,000 by the end of fiscal year 21. This left many wondering whether the loss of patronage would be the new normal. Second, the Friends were also affected. Meetings were now done remotely instead of in person. Book sales and patron membership, our source of funds, fell. Also, our membership drifted away to address personal matters of their own. However, things began to improve with the fiscal year 2020 gate count rising to 2,181,000, which confirmed patrons were rediscovering the library. So DCPL and the Federation of Friends collaborated on a joint system-wide membership. Oh, I don't have my video started. Okay. Sorry about that. Picking up where I left off, a system-wide membership drive on October 15th, 2023, beginning with the National Friends of Library Week. The campaign included posters, a toolkit, and other material in support of this effort. The campaign drive resulted in noticeable increases in membership. For example, between October 15th, 2023 through January 31st, 2024, 104 new members had joined, while only 32 had joined during the same time period the prior year. The count is even greater if the new member totals of the friends groups that process membership in-house and of the renewing members had been included. The membership drive is but one example of a mutually beneficial collaboration between DCPL and the Friends. Others include the Branch Enrichment Fund, in which Friends donate funds that the foundation matches to provide resources to all branches, but especially those branches without a Friends group, and the Winter Reading Challenge. The Federation of Library Friends looks forward to future mutually beneficial engagements with DCPL, and we hope to advocate for the new security measures that DCPL is contemplating. And again, going to Mark's points, they are all valid points, and it is something that we need to discuss at some point. However, I just want to say that, it is not all bad. There's a lot of good that DCPL is doing. And so I just wanted to get both sides of this debate started. Thank you. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Carlos Azareta.
Yes, Azareta. Good morning, Councilmember White. Robert and Mark, always great points. Thanks for chiming in and being part of the Federation. Good morning to the committee. Thank you for having us. I wrote a kind of a long thing, so I know I only have 3 minutes, but I just wanted to say, first of all, thank you to our staff and our interim head librarian, Victor Benitez. They have done such a great job. Bobby Doherty, who's our head librarian, has been out on leave, and she's done a great job, or he has done a great job leading the library with staff. And one of the things that we would, I do have 5 minutes. Okay. One of the things we would love is if Victor could stay on when Bobby returns, because Victor does speak Spanish, and he has basically done a trial by fire, being thrown into this very busy branch in Ward 1. And so we'd love to have him stay on. As you know, and maybe some of the committee doesn't know, but Mount Pleasant does serve a huge Latino population. The amount of Spanish-speaking books is the highest among DCPL libraries, and we'd love to keep it that way. But we'd also want to update it, bring in new authors, new ideas, especially Spanish-speaking ones. And as the population diversity grows in Ward 1, with different languages being spoken, we'd also love to see some of that inclusion of those types of books coming in. So that's one of the things that I wanted to talk about. I also wanted to say the library, as most of you know, has become this community center. It's not only just a place where you can learn, but it's also a place where you can go and you don't have to pay for anything. You can just sit inside, you can think, read, you can use the bathroom, there's water. And recently, during the pandemic, you could pick up COVID tests, which the librarians were able to help out with, as well as the friends. It's also a voting center, as most of you know. It's vital to the community. And a lot of times when patrons, maybe they just need a place to get warm, especially now with the cold, they see all the programming that is available to them. I know Mark and Robert had mentioned this, but, at Mount Pleasant alone, we have a free legal aid workshop that we have once a month. We also have harm reduction workshop every month as well. So, in addition to just, you know, getting a book or using the space to read or write or do whatever you needed to do, or just getting out of the cold, there's so many of these great services that are offered. The other thing I wanted to touch upon is the Digital Navigator, which is a new program that has been at several branches, and I know DCPL is looking to expand it. The Navigator has been such an asset. A lot of folks come in, one, they don't have a computer, they don't have access to the internet, so they come in and they can talk to the Digital Navigator, and he can help them maybe set up an email account, or maybe go, maybe they want to download some tax forms or insurance forms. The other day, I was in the friend's room and I was working outside of it. And this woman came up to me and she was like, "Hey, is it possible to print out some documents?" And I said, "Yes, we have free printing every day, color, black and white, whatever you need." And she said, "Well, all of the laptops are being used." And so, I talked to her, and we went downstairs, talked to the Digital Navigator. But one of my ideas, and I would love to get, feedback from you all, but would be to have a specific like iPad or laptop that, even if all the laptops are being used, there'd be one designated for printing. Because one of the things I suggested to her was to just email the library and then they would print it for you, which is usually what they do. But unfortunately, in this case, she had everything stolen. So she didn't have access to that. So I think the Digital Navigator is very important. I hope we continue with this program. Sorry, I know I have a few more minutes. Let's see. The other issue that we're having, and like I said, our branch is amazing. Staff is great. We have so much great programming. But one of the things that we're having issues with is rats. And I know this has been a thing in DC for a while. But we would love to talk further about, getting some landscaping done. Because as you come in, there's just, there's trees, but there's also dirt piles, and the rats hide under the dirt. And when it rains, it causes this like unfortunate, almost a little slide, and there's just mud left everywhere the next day. So we would love to talk about landscaping, getting it fixed, maybe adding some benches, some tables to make it more inviting for folks to come in to read outside, especially as it gets warmer. And, as the signal for the internet is able to get out, a little bit further than just the building. So it'd be nice to have people to be able to use, laptops or whatever outside. The other thing that we want to look into is we have
All right, we got a few more, a little over your time. So if
Oh,
you
I'm so sorry. Okay. Well, I just wanted to wrap up just a few, a little structural things, and thank you for listening. And I submitted a longer written testimony, so hopefully you can take
Okay.
it. Have a nice one. Thank you.
Okay, we want to make sure that the director of the agency gets it as well. I think you have made some important points that needs to be addressed, and I'll come back in a minute. Let me jump around here.
Thank you.
Commissioner Rhodes.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
Here I go. Good morning, Chairperson White, council members, staff, and witnesses. My name is Sabrina Rhodes. I am the community organizer with Empower DC and also the ANC commissioner of Ivy City. And today I come before you with a heart full of gratitude and admiration for the invaluable service that the mobile library has brought to our community. As a resident of Ivy City, I've had the privilege of witnessing firsthand the profound impact the bookmobile of knowledge has had on our lives. From the moment the mobile library graced our streets, it brought with it not only a wealth of books, but also a sense of joy and excitement that the children had when they would come to listen to stories and play. It was more than just a vehicle filled with literature, it was an event. One of the most remarkable aspects of the mobile library's presence has been its accessibility. For many members of our community, Transportation to the traditional library can be a challenge, with the closest library being Woodbridge. And a lot of our community members will have to cross the busy New York Avenue to get to that library. However, with the mobile library and its beautiful artwork on the vehicle rolling into our neighborhood, barriers were lifted and access to resources became a reality for all. This accessibility has been particularly beneficial for the children in our community, including those in the area daycares, who may not have had the chance to experience the wonders of a library otherwise, along with some of us who needed to update their library cards. But the mobile library didn't just bring books, it brought a sense of community. It became a hub of learning and exploration, where children eagerly gathered to listen to captivating tales, immerse themselves in music, engage in delightful games, and Tammy, the children's librarian, came, who had us out there singing and dancing. Children were also able to walk away with books they were able to keep. Throughout his presence in our community, we made it a priority to ensure open lines of communication with the mobile library team, Tracy, Mike, and Joe. Whether it was to share our appreciation, provide feedback, or address any concerns, we always felt heard and valued. This collaborative approach fostered a sense of trust and partnership that further strengthened the bond between the mobile library and our community. The mobile library has been nothing short of a blessing. It has enriched our lives, ignited our imaginations, and instilled in us a deep appreciation for the power of literacy and community engagement. As we move forward, Chairperson White, I urge you to continue supporting initiatives and allow the mobile library to continue to be a presence in Ivy City. Construction will begin at Cromell soon, and that's where the mobile library was stationed. But we want to find another place for the book bump bill to come into the community while Cromell is under construction, so we can continue to have these services in Ivy City. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm gonna jump back real quick to Mr. Patterson. Mr. Patterson, I heard you talk about the burden of fundraising.
Mhm.
Talking about the switching from friends group to the foundation.
Mhm.
What's the difficulty in I guess adjusting that, or are you able to have both that both can be beneficial in different ways?
Well, I mean, the DCPL Foundation is definitely a big ticket supplier of library enhancement revenue.
Mhm.
The Friends, like I said, I can remember one used book sale where our take was $400, and nearly half of that was revenue from memberships. Last fall we had a book sale at $340, which I thought was even more successful because that only included 2 new memberships. So we sold a lot of merchandise. But those numbers pale in comparison to what the DCPL Foundation raises. But when the library's staff, asks us to contribute to the summer reading program, last year it was called Discover Summer, and they were asking for something from us on the lines of an average of $1,000 per Friends group, assuming that every library has a Friends group, which it does not.
Right.
We're not. I said we're not cut out for that. I mean, we're all organized as 501c3 nonprofits under whatever used to be known as DCRA, but it's expectations are unrealistic as to what we
So let me ask you
there
this:
are a handful of Friends groups that can pony up that kind of dough.
what's your relationship with the foundation? I mean, how are they partnering with you guys to help out on those demands?
How it works, quote unquote, works is that whatever we contribute this branch enrichment fund to help a branch that's in need, they will match, but it's a much bigger percentage of our bank account than it is of theirs,
Yeah. And who sets that?
I don't know.
Okay, I found out
You
from
know,
my exes and the direction. Okay. So essentially, if they match, they're not matching much. If you only have what $400 and somebody might need something, it's really not helping the need. And do they give out grants at all? Because it is a foundation. Are you all able to apply for grants?
if they offer grants to friends groups, I suppose I've never been aware of it or at least attuned to it.
I mean, that would be very helpful. I don't know if they do, but I think I should find out because foundations normally support other missions and visions of other people or smaller entities. So outside of just getting a match, maybe want to see if they can give out some grants to have enhance some of the work that's been done, not just at your rec, but other recs as well.
But when we meet every other month, there's a short report from the foundation, but I can't say that I've tuned into, oh yes, and we've given grants to A, B, and C, and not to say that they don't, but doesn't make it in our direction.
Okay. Okay. Um, have you ever seen any changes? I know you said there was some security there. Um, and we've been hearing this consistently over the last 3 years. I know from several different locations about, we've had a couple of incidents at several different libraries and around the libraries, and potential incidents as well. So do you think security is working?
I think it is. We're not a very troublesome branch, but I suppose given the tenor of the times, it's good to see one or two people who come in and take a look around, survey the scene, make their presence known. Even if they've got to go on to the next library and do the same thing. And usually, there's kind of like a shared time arrangement for an officer or two, probably between Shepherd Park, Tacoma Park, and the Lillian Huff Library in Lamont Riggs.
And you mentioned the $10. Was that the membership fee you were referencing with $10?
No, no, no. Although our membership is $10 for most people, but $10 meant a gift that you can give a librarian. If you want to buy them lunch, it better be under $10.
Okay, so you're
If
just
you
trying
want to
to
get them anything, it better be under $10.
Oh, okay, I get what you're saying because we got that on the council. The council can only get a certain gift up to a certain amount before it becomes a issue of ethic issue. Okay,
That's true, but we also have heard of inflation.
yeah, you can't get nothing with $10. You can't get a meal with $10 no more.
That's
Okay,
right.
we'll look into that as well. Thank you for that. Um, and you also talked about librarians being able to give smart trips out to senior citizens. Was that what I was hearing?
They do that in Montgomery County, but I haven't seen any evidence that they're doing it yet at DC Public Library, which would be a great benefit. Libraries are usually on bus lines. You can start using it as soon as you get it. You load it up with a little cash and away you go.
All right, we'll look into that and we'll ask the director some of these questions. I'm pretty sure he and his staff are listening in as well. Thank
Mhm.
you. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate that.
Thank you,
Let's jump
sir.
to you, Mr. Oliver.
Yes.
Um, I'm excited that you said you've seen the increase in membership. Tell me a little bit about what the membership drive, how did it work? How did you participate in it?
Basically, the membership drive was something that Martha Zacosio, who is the community liaison, worked with me and others in the group to come up with a drive to enhance and bring in members for all the groups throughout the city. And basically, what happened was that some groups are much more adept at membership than others. And so, what they provided was a toolkit with documents that was used to entice individuals. We had signage that was provided system-wide, and announcements were made on the DCPL system, so that because we all did this at once, all one had to do was basically report to their neighborhood library. In addition, the Friends had their own website, and well, some Friends have two websites. We have one general website that's run under an application called Wild Apricot, which each Friends group gets a free web page, and we've updated those web pages to specify that the membership drive was going on, so people could, I guess, come into that system and become a member. And also, some groups have, due to their size and expertise, their own internally run website, which they maintain. So what they do is people can come into our website, and then we have a link that takes them directly to that group's internal website if they have one available. So far, everything has been working fine. We brought in another quite a few members. And to Mark's point, the average membership is $10 to $20, with $20 being the high. And let's say, for the sake of laughs, let's say the DCPL wanted $2,000 from a Friends group. Well, if you're charging $20 a member, you're going to have to bring in at least 100 members to get up to 2,000. So, that's a heavy lift for a lot of groups. That's a heavy lift for seniors and students. And also, there's a lot of money coming out of some Friends whose budget is fairly thin. So there are issues in terms of ask and expectations. And we are, addressing that internally, but I'm glad that Mark raised the issue. Another important issue is security. DCPL has, during its last trustees meeting, had the new security chief do an analysis of the entire system, and she came up with some very valid points and changes. I think some of these points can be implemented now, but some will require funding. And during the budget hearings, I believe that we will press for funding to bring in more security. As you know, there have been incidents around the system through no fault of the library. Property has been destroyed because of things that have gone on out in the streets. And so I think that by having more security, you have, at the very least, when someone walks into the branch, what they call a halo effect. If someone sees that there's a guard there, they're more likely to be on their best behavior. But if they see there's nothing there, they're more likely to feel free to do certain things or to get into adverse behavior. So for the most part, that's an issue that we all need to address, and I'm sure DCPL management will give you more insight.
Got it. And I'll ask about that. I'm running out of time on this particular panel. Let me jump down real quick to Mr. Izareta.
Carlos Izareta, yeah. Carlos is fine too. Thanks.
Carlos. All right. Thank you. I'm happy to hear that the digital navigator system is working. I think that's a great investment. And I did hear you talk about more laptops. Are you talking about more laptops for people to surf, or in what capacity do we need more laptops to do?
I think, well, we get a lot of people that come in, that are on the laptops for various reasons, like doing work, maybe watching YouTube, just kind of, staying, or learning something on the web. I think since so many people come in, they're being used, and then someone, let's say, wants to print something out, they're not able to send anything because they might not have access to a smartphone or a laptop, but they do have email. So it would be nice to have like a dedicated one that they could just, log into. and then send whatever they need to print out and then head on their way. Because I think that has been a little bit of an issue where folks, don't have access.
And I heard you talking about Spanish speaking books
Mhm.
and access to that.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
No, and I wanted to know, like, what's your thoughts on Spanish speaking staff?
I think it's great. We do have some Spanish speakers, but it would be nice to have more. And that's why I suggested, if it was possible, to keep Victor Benitez, who's the interim head librarian, at our staff as the assistant manager underneath Bobby when she comes back, because he does speak Spanish. And it's vital to the community. Mount Pleasant is, mainly Latino. The surrounding areas, Columbia Heights, Petworth, have a lot of Latino folks. But the other thing is, with the books, a lot of them are older. Some of them are in bad condition, so we've had to, weed them out. And it'd be nice to replace them, maybe get new authors. There's a lot of younger folks that are writing. There are
Okay.
Latino authors that we could get in, or translations that maybe we just haven't had before.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. We got that. Now I did hear you say something about the landscaping there, um, and trying to address it before the puddles and dealing with the rats. And
Mhm.
so go ahead and note that and send it up, not just
Thank you.
to DC Public Libraries, Cal. We want to send a notice to DGS as well. Because I know they have some contractors through the government that can fix that. We give out a lot of money in landscaping. I've looked through it, millions, so we can figure out if
Oh,
we can
wow.
navigate
Okay.
that.
Thank
Uh,
you. I appreciate that.
I'm not sure who has that proposal, but I know there's some that went out. Um, so I got that. Commissioner Rhodes,
Yes.
thank you. I'm happy that the mobile library has showed up.
Yep.
And it's working well for the community. I know you guys been organizing uh for quite some time, trying to get some activation there,
Yes.
with not just libraries but recreation, just for the community. And I haven't been up there in a while since the last time I did a walk, but I'm interested in coming back, trying to find that
Mhm.
feasible space. Now there was that playground there where the basketball court was.
Yeah, the playground and the basketball courts are still there.
What about the spot right in front of there? Is that not a good spot?
You talking about Gallaudet Street?
I don't know the name of the street, forgive me.
It's Gallaudet Street is the residential area that's right in where the basketball court and the playground is. That is a good spot, but the street is narrow.
Okay.
And the mobile library has a tent and a tarp, and they pull out the games. So if someone, first of all, the sidewalks are not ADA compliant. So if someone was on a sidewalk, that would be difficult for them to navigate through if we were to pull out the tent. But we do have Trinity Baptist Church. We can ask them to use their parking lot for the mobile library here on Central Place. So,
And how do you coordinate the times and also get messaging out to the community that they're going to be there?
well, Tracy did a flyer, and she sent me the flyer, and we put them on doors, and we sent out the emails with the flyers with the times. And Trinity Baptist Church has opened up their church for community meetings. So if that was an option, that wouldn't be a problem.
I know there's a DCPL, I mean, DC Libraries, Public Libraries, hearing, but I want to ask about recreation. Is the showmobile scheduling dates to come around there with the showmobile or the fun wagon or the screen at all?
From DPR,
Yeah, from DPR.
we had the screen one time, and it was um during the DPR basketball tournament. So they had the screen with the popcorn machines, but at the same time, DPR was doing their basketball tournament. So it was two events going on at the same time, and that was uh, the year before last.
Oh, wow.
Last year they were supposed to came and it rained. I asked, was there another date? They
Mhm.
said it wasn't, and so they never came.
If anything happens like that, I'm going to leave my number in the chat. You should leave your email in the chat as well. We want to try to coordinate that this going into the summer with Danielle from DPR, because I
Yes.
did hear that for some of the residents there. I was at Ivy City Smokehouse and I kind of was walking around talking to people.
Hmm.
That was one of the things I've heard from some of the residents there. So I want to make sure I follow up with that. Uh,
Okay.
yeah.
We appreciate it because a lot of folks was anticipating on the movie movie day or movie evening or movie night just for that event. And because it rained, they didn't show up. They didn't even tell me that they weren't going to show up. And I had to reach out to staff, and they said it wasn't a rain date. So
Okay.
that was pretty disappointing.
Okay. We addressed that.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you guys. I appreciate you guys testifying today. We will giving us some more homework and some more work to do. I'm pretty sure the agency is excited about the new opportunities coming up this year. I heard about more money for security. We don't know what the budget is going to look like in all honesty. We look forward to it. I mean, addressing when we get to that road. But thank you guys this morning for testifying, and we look forward to serving you. Thank you. Next panel, we have Commissioner Abel Amin, Joy Pickney, Commissioner Pickney, Commissioner Joy Pinkney, Commissioner uh Robin Diner, Executive Director for Library Renaissance Project, Murray Alice Levine, Ward 3 Democratic Committee Delegate, Jeffrey Carter, okay. Abel, if you're ready, you can go right ahead.
Thank you, council member. Actually, I see Commissioner Pickney's after me. Would it be possible for her to go first because she represents the entire commission and our resolution that we passed on this?
Absolutely.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Joy Pinkney, and I'm currently the ANC Commissioner for SMD 4D01, where I serve as leader of the Kennedy Street Library Task Force. Excuse me. My neighbors in Ward 4 are excited about erecting a library in, on, or near Kennedy Street, Northwest DC. I understand through meetings with our library director that this project requires time, money, cooperation, and community. As a native Washingtonian and an educated woman, I can't imagine a world without libraries or books. Currently, our neighborhood is a book desert. There are no libraries within walking distance of our community. Having a public space where neighbors of all ages, nationalities, and beliefs can learn and grow together as an important gift. It's an important gift and a complement to the education and cohesiveness of our community. Excuse me. Today I rise to follow up on the 4D resolution request that an RFP be published to solicit viable offers from developers who are ready to submit. We are absolutely interested in opportunities for local companies to fairly compete and wherever possible, hire DC-based businesses to work during the life of the build. Financially, this library will also create foot traffic, which is desperately needed to complement the current growth of the Kennedy Street corridor and our entire community. This building can and will also be used to house the City Services Office promised to the ANC Commission 4D in prior years. Affordable housing units are also possible for this building. Today, we ask for an update on the steps taken towards this end. A resolution was submitted asking for an RFP for this project, and we are asking the City Council to support it. We are aware of developers who are qualified and excited to work on this library. Councilman and Chairman White, our community is interested in revitalization, and we believe we are worth this investment. Stalling the acquisition, it's not okay. We are a community of survivors. History has demonstrated this. Policing is not a solution alone for any community. The DPED is scheduled to report their progress steps made toward this acquisition. Now we ask the Department of Libraries to move on purpose, and together we can open doors for our youth, our seniors, and our citizens. In summary, I am in favor of placing the new library on Kennedy Street. I look forward to exploring all the possibilities between now and when the building of our library begins. Respectfully submitted, Stuart A. Pinckney, ANC Commissioner.
Thank you so much. I see we also joined by Ward 4 Councilmember Janisha Lewis George. Councilwoman, I'm gonna go to Abel and then come back if you have any comments or questions.
Thank you very much. My name is Abel Mini. I'm the commissioner for 4DO2. You know, my colleague, Commissioner Pickney, has expressed this so well. We are in desperate need of a library on Kennedy Street, and the community is quite united on this front. Our ANC has passed 3 resolutions in total on this topic. Our council member, Janice Wills George, has worked diligently, and you have, council member White, to get us the funding needed to acquire the property that was added in the previous budget. So as Commissioner Pickney asked, we are asking for DEMPED to move diligently on this, on the acquisition of this property. My neighborhoods, and you can, I invite you both, you Commissioner, Council member, to come visit. You walk down Kennedy Street, and I'm sure many of you have. You see that there's many properties available that would work well as a location for a library. And as Commissioner Pickney has pointed out, this building could facilitate other services, DC government services that are desperately needed. Our ANC 4D has been in need of services like these, and the need for a library is very great. it could address many issues that we are facing. I am myself a student, a full-time student at the University of Maryland. I want to speak to how a library could be a place for someone like me who is commuting, uh, long distances to the university, but would like some place to study near my home. I'm just imagining how other people in similar situations could benefit from a library. I sometimes need to print something, and what I often do is I go up to one of the libraries, take a bus to go up to maybe Tacoma or Lamont Riggs to do that, because that those 20 pages a day that are available for someone to print are sufficient for the things that I need. Um, Having something like that located near my neighborhood would be very beneficial. So for all these reasons, I want to urge you to continue your oversight on this matter, both to the Public Library Agency and to DEMPED so that they move forward on this project as quickly as possible. Thank you very much. And I think I will yield the rest of my time.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I don't see you. Okay. Ms.
I'm
Dinah,
here.
I see you. I'm digressing. Go to you, Councilmember Janice Lewis George, and then come back to Ms. Dinah if you don't mind. I know you have a lot of different things going on, Councilwoman.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Councilmember and Chair Trayon White, for all the work that you do on behalf of our DC Public Libraries citywide. And a special thank you for the work you've been able to do in helping for the libraries in Ward 4. I want to thank all the public witnesses, especially the Ward 4 residents who care deeply about their community, their libraries, and for taking time out of their day to make their voices heard. Especially our 4D commissioners who are present today, and so many others. They've noted this after a community-led effort alongside my ANC commissioners in both 4D and 4B and neighbors. And you, Councilmember White, we secured $5 million to acquire land for a new public library on Kennedy Street. That funding became available 4 months ago on October 1. The budget also included funding to construct a new library starting in fiscal year 27. Unfortunately, we have not seen yet DCPL and DMPED act to begin the land acquisition process. I know I've had a meeting with DMPED director, and they have had a meeting with DC Public Libraries. And while it's a joint effort, they are deferring to DCPL to continue this work. And there's been sort of it's their job. I think it's both of the agency's job as well as the executive administration. And I'll be talking to the city administrator later on today as well in his hearing. DCPL's own Next Library study shows the Kennedy Street neighborhood is a library desert, and the future Kennedy Street Public Library is crucial to transforming that corridor and bringing peace, vitality, and hope to the many people who live in the neighborhood, the young children, the single parents, the immigrants, the seniors, and the working people of Brightwood Park and Manor Park deserve the same access to the library's valuable resources as everyone else is in the city. And I'm here to hear about sort of DCPL's plans for moving forward with this project after speaking to DMPED and their willingness. The site of this location is already been identified. There are Ward 4 developers who have right to the property, who have literally have every permit that one would need. And if you go right now, you could see the space. I had a picture, but I don't have it with me. I was going to have it as my background of what that space looks like right now. It is more than enough to be able to do that work. So today is really about getting to the nuts and bolts of that. And Councilmember White, if I have to step away and able to answer those questions, I just want to make sure that you're able to really dig deep and make sure that it's sort of not it's their fault. They're supposed to do it or I'm supposed to do it. It's a joint effort. So both parties are supposed to move forward on it. I want to hear about that. We also have many other libraries in Ward 4, our Shepherd Park Library, Tacoma Park Library, and Shepherd Park is the Juanita Thornton Library, Tacoma Parks Library, as well as our Petworth Library. We have put money and funding for Petworth Library to build an additional, modernize the upper wing for teenagers. As you know, we have so many schools in that area, from McFarland to Roosevelt, to Powell, and Capital City Charter School, and so many others. We were supposed to have that as a resource for the teenagers and have some space in place for them to go as we look at and grapple with what are we going to do with our youth in our city. I was hoping to see those renovations take place, and I just wanted to see where DCPL was, where it was in that process of that funding that occurred, I believe, in the 2021 budget for Petworth Library. I want to make sure we are still on track for the modernization of Juanita Thornton Library. As you know, it is such a historical value to the community, has such a rich historical value. And as that community has grown with the new neighbors at Walter Reed, and the new growing families in the Shepherd Park community and the seniors there, that is something that we want to prioritize and make happen. So I will say this. I know that DCPL has put on so much valuable programming over the last year. I've been blown away. I've gone to MLK Library. They have had go-go bands on the roof. They have brought so many amazing authors and speakers, transformative authors and speakers. And even DCPL's director has spoken about an ability for us to look at a possibility of housing and library together. That Kennedy Street location they are happy to bring a library with housing. I know other parts of the city they are grappling with a library and a housing on another part of the city and getting so much pushback from that community. But we're a community that is giving no pushback. Bring on the housing, bring on the library. Let's make it something transformative. Let's transform people's lives the way DCPL's programming has been transforming lives and bringing transformative artists and having transformative displays throughout. So I'm proud of the work DCPL is doing, and I want this to be an opportunity for them to go even further and transform the lives of our community who want it, who deserve it, and who it truly will make a difference. So thank you so much for allowing me this opportunity. And again, thank you to my commissioners who are just amazing community advocates, and appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Ms. Dinah.
Okay, thanks. Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning. My name is Robin Diener, and I'm the director of the Library Renaissance Project. I'm also president of the Friends of the MLK Library, but I'm not speaking.
Ms. Gina, real quick, spelling of your last name, spell it for me, please.
Diener.
G?
D, as in David.
Okay. Oh, it's correct. Okay, I thought it was misspelled. Okay, gotcha.
Okay, so the Library Renaissance Project was founded in 2002 to protect and promote the public interest in the library. So we have been on the scene throughout the transformation of the library system in DC, this amazing civic project, of which everyone should be so proud. And it will come as no surprise that we oppose the surplusing of public land and facilities at the Chevy Chase Library, just as we did at the West End. Over the course of the library transformation process, most now of DC's 26 libraries have been rebuilt, or renewed, or restored as freestanding buildings with iconic features. In the neighborhoods of 5 libraries, Benning, MLK, Southwest, Tenley, and West End, we endured some divisive battles over plans to surplus public land into the hands of private developers for the creation of housing over libraries. In every case, except one, the neighbors prevailed, and only in the West End was the land ceded to private interests. Residents of Chevy Chase Library, and I believe some of them will speak for themselves here, have come out quite massively against this, and Councilmember Louis George, I think, was alluding to that. The West End public land giveaway resulted in luxury housing. This is not a good model to address the affordable housing crisis. I realize that surplusing the library is a council issue, not per se the library committee, but I just want to go into it a little bit. In Chevy Chase, there was a small area plan that identified 8 opportunity sites for affordable housing. Those should be looked at by the city publicly and systematically explored. Then we would not need to give away the public land. Also, the library on site in Chevy Chase now was engineered to have another story added. And it has a basement with a full height basement that's not being used. It could have a roof garden. It could actually be expanded to almost double its current size instead of being kind of pushed in under other things. Further, on the west end, its most well-known event, the flood, which closed the library for nearly 2 months, still remains to be understood exactly what happened. DCPL's characterization of the flood as a leak is not that helpful. A leak, you put a bucket, you call the plumber. The library was closed for 2 months. You had to evacuate effectively. We have called upon the Board of Library Trustees to issue a report so we can understand what happened and make sure it doesn't happen again, especially if we're looking at building more such collaborations, co-locations rather. And so just very briefly, I completely agree with my colleagues who've already spoken. I was interested to hear, I hadn't heard from Carlos about the landscaping issues at DC, at Mount Pleasant. Council member, I've spoken about this many times. I'm just mystified by the library's reluctance or unwillingness to work with the friends groups in particular to do landscaping. They're interested in paying for it and, even helping to maintain it. We need to lower the cost of public room rental, particularly, I guess it's mostly at MLK, and get rid of these contracts for the friends groups. They're completely ridiculous. We embarked on this process to renew our libraries in order to expand access to spaces that the public needed for meetings or for nonprofits and other offerings, including, the tax prep and voting. We support any requests of the security staff at all of our libraries. They are completely wonderful. The library is a safe space. I want to salute the staff at DCPL, particularly Tony Ross, the librarian, in creating and sharing a trauma-informed approach to customers in distress. Okay, I know my time is almost up. I just want to say how inventive, compassionate, and hardworking our DCPL librarians are. They truly, truly are there for us. And I will submit my testimony in writing, which have a few other points in it. But thank you very much for listening.
Got it. Thank you so much. We have Miss Joy Pinckney. Is that right? No, that's not right.
I'm here.
Sorry, we're gonna go to Miss Alice Levine. Mary Alice Levine.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman White and Council Member George. My name is Mary Alice Levine, and I'm testifying today on behalf of the Ward 3 Democratic Committee. The Ward 3 Democrats are dismayed by the DC Public Library's decision in May 2023 to curtail evening hours at DC's branch libraries. After this decision, in June 2023, branch libraries started closing 1 hour earlier at 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, while those same libraries and the Central Library continued to close between 5 p.m. and 6 p.m. on other days. Public libraries provide valuable resources for people of all ages and must be open day and night to accommodate the library's various possible patrons, who include working people, young children, students, academics, community groups, and all who love to read. In addition, DC's branch libraries serve as community hubs for many neighborhoods and must remain accessible during the day until at least 9 p.m. on most, if not all, nights. Many working people can only visit the libraries on weeknights and on weekends. On weeknights, branch library meeting rooms now close at 7:30 p.m., precisely the time when many community groups need them. It is a shame to leave these meeting rooms empty and unavailable after 7:30. Our committee understands that when DC libraries started closing earlier in June 2023, overall hours of operation did not decrease. Instead, the branches started to open 1 hour earlier at 9 a.m. Mondays through Wednesdays rather than 10 a.m. But we don't think this is a good trade-off. DC residents need their beautiful libraries, some new, and their beloved librarians later than 8 p.m. Community centers and recreation centers run by the DC Department of Recreation are often open until 9 p.m. on weeknights. We believe that access to libraries is at least as important to many DC residents as DPR facilities. The Ward 3 Democrats also hope the DCPL will go through with its plans to equip its meeting rooms with technology that lets groups host hybrid meetings that will permit attendees to participate virtually or in person. As you know, such meetings have become very necessary since the pandemic. Finally, we note that the Tenley Friendship Library and perhaps other branches have movable walls that allow meetings to be held without giving access to the rest of the library. I doubt this feature has ever been used, but its use would make it feasible for meeting rooms to stay open well after the library closes. Only 1 or 2 staff members would have to remain after closing time. To wrap up, the Ward 3 Democratic Committee urges the council to encourage DCPL to reinstate later evening hours at all DCPL libraries, to go forward with its stalled plans to equip meeting rooms for hybrid meetings, and to allow meetings to proceed after library closing where it is possible. Thank you for this opportunity on behalf of the Ward 3 Democrats. And I will add a personal note, and that is that I will be testifying in writing personally as a library advocate on many or all of the issues mentioned by the past 7 witnesses. My sympathies are with all of them. Thank you.
Thank you for that. We're going to go to Jeffrey Carter.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Good morning, Councilmember White and other council members and committee staff. My name is Mr. Jeffrey Carter. I entered the MLK Library Adult Learning Department September the 9th, 2023. I have been a student of Ward 8 location of Academy Adult Education Public Charter Schools since August of 2022. Academy of Hope is filled with great educators and promise. Once a week, there were 4 GED classes. I put my best foot forward, and due to the distractions, I began to lose interest. I studied science and math under the direction of Ms. Danelle M. Cook, a math professor. I was ready to walk away after my conversation with Ms. Cook. She made me promise, don't pay attention to distractions, and don't quit. You got this. I stayed and began pushing myself harder. In March of 2023, Ms. Cook passed away. I was one of the first responders in the classroom trying to keep her there. She passed away at United Medical later that day. Excuse me. I still kept my promise to Ms. Cook, but it became challenging without a science or a math instructor. On November 16th of 2023, I took the GED ready exam and scored a 154. With the constant distractions, I walked out of Academy of Hope. I studied at home. I borrowed books from the Anacostia branch of the DC Library. I worked hard. I watched PBS channel on social studies and YouTube for math. While at Anacostia Library, I asked them about tutors and was given the information about the adult learning department at Martin Luther King Library. I went home and prayed for directions. I asked God if it's his will for me.
Mr. Carter, you done?
I asked God if it's his will for me, let his will be done. And I also asked God, if it's not, take it from me. For the summer, I studied social studies, science, and math. Through corresponding with Ms. Janice Peterson at the MLK Library on September the 7th, 2023, we met. Ms. Peterson started me exactly where I was, and twice a week, I made progress. Ms. Peterson reminds me of Ms. Cook, a professor of humanity and educator of comprehension. Within the first few weeks, I passed social studies and science. Now that I'm on my way in math, I'll be able to say to Ms. Cook, I kept my promise. With the assistance of the Martin Luther King Library, I found how important having libraries are, the resources, the learning benefits, and the staff who pay it forward. This is, to me, better than going elsewhere. It's peaceful. As a certified recovery coach through DBH, MLK Library, Ms. Janice Peterson helped me to solidify my career and my other endeavors as a writer. Thank you for letting me testify, and God bless.
God bless you too, brother. We're gonna go back real quick to Miss Pinckney.
Sure.
What library does your current community use the most? I heard you say there's not a library within a mile. So what library do you think residents are using?
Um, well, I'm believing maybe they're using Petworth, they may be using Tacoma Park. They may not be using anything but trying to navigate the internet. If they're in school, maybe the school library. Um, you know, that's probably it. They may go up to Shepherd Park, but I'm not sure about that. But that's a great question, and we'll put that on our questionnaire as we survey the community.
Thank you. I do want to note we have Councilman Janice Lewis George here. I have a meeting coming up with DEMPED's new director, Nina Albert, and this is I'm gonna add my staff to put this on my agenda of items to talk to her about as we talk about finding a viable space. And we want to look, Councilwoman, to see if we can move that time up. I think from 2027, move it up. You know, I think that we're facing some different times when it comes to our budget. And so we have to move as quickly as possible to get things done in anticipation for very volatile budget. So I want to just note that. Did want to ask you, how large would the service offices be? You mentioned it will be housed in Kennedy Street Library.
You still talking to me, sir?
Yeah, I remember you mentioning about the service office.
Yes. Okay. In our neighborhood, we have no service office available where people can go look for jobs, get help for resumes, etc. And this was brought up as a very good answer to having our young people only deciding to be on the street and doing things that are not in line with what we as the neighbors want them to do. And so at the street level of the building could be a space for that type of service office.
Okay. 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 Give me 1 second. What's going on? I'm not sure what's going on. All right. Thank you for that. I want to jump real quick to is Dana. All right, real quick. You asked about the friends coordinating with the library to do landscaping.
Well, not necessarily to do like planting bushes or anything, but as far as purchasing annual plants or bulbs or small things that provide a great beauty, brightness, color, especially over the spring, summer, and fall. This is something that a lot of friends groups would like to do. They would pay for it, and they could also help maintain it. I don't know for sure. I think there may be on the part of DCPL a reluctance to have people traipsing around with shovels and hoses and possibly tripping. But I think it used to be years ago, always the civic associations or the Friends of the Library, they did the gardening around the libraries and it made it look so much more beautiful. It's not expensive, but even so, the Friends could do it at no cost to the library. And it's just a beautification thing that gives a little more pride to the neighborhood. I mean, libraries are already beloved, but this will make them even more beautiful to passersby.
I got it. And I heard you talk about the divisive battle between surplus land and the housing. There's a number of conversations about creating housing and libraries.
Mhm.
Are you guys in support of that?
What I'm in support of, what we're in support of, and what I have asked Mayor Bowser to do this, is to have a public conversation, one of your roundtables down at the council, maybe in communities, where we talk about the underlying ownership and funding mechanisms for building housing over libraries. If that's the right thing to do in certain circumstances, then how do we make sure we don't have a flood? To my knowledge, and this is being done, libraries are being built with housing over them in a few places around the country. I think there are now 4 or 5 or 6 such projects. So we should look at them. And how did they do it? Sometimes it's a nonprofit that's involved. Sometimes the land is retained by the city and it's built by the city. So we own it and it can be much more highly affordable. There are a lot of factors. And rather than fight with the community, it would be, I think, so beneficial to have a broad ranging discussion, and especially so the public can understand the funding issues, because we've been using the inclusionary zoning deal to get a few affordable units in housing throughout the city, and we still have a crisis. So that's not
Yeah.
working. Let's look at using our public land for complete affordability, in my view, social housing, something like that. I know you've had discussions about social housing. It may be the right thing to do, but I think it's complicated and we should just have a chance for everyone to discuss it, is my view. And different for each community.
Got it. I did want to ask Mr. Carter a few questions. First, I want to, man, thank you for your admiration and your tenacity, man. I know it's been a long journey, and I want to send my love and condolences for Miss Cook and her family doing your loss. And I just want to encourage you to keep going, man. You know, sometimes we don't see the end of the tunnel when we're going through it because we get blinded, get depressed, stressed out, trying to just figure it out. But I hear that you're present today. Each
Can I
and every
say something?
try to do our best to show up. Yeah, go right ahead.
I saw you on Good Hope Road protesting on the corner of Good Hope Road across that bridge when they was putting that building up and they wouldn't hire anyone from Ward 8. I stood there right beside you. And when I looked at you and I saw the courage and the strength that you was using and the unity that you have to bring everyone together, that's what just kept me motivated.
Wow. Wow. I appreciate that. Yep.
You
I know
remind me of Marion Barry.
that's my guy. Yeah, absolutely, man. We gotta ensure that as these developers make money in our community, that the businesses and the people in the community are vested in a part of those projects. That's critical to the community. Yeah. I got a lot of flack behind that, but
I
you know,
know, but you needed it because you was putting a lot of heat under people.
yeah.
So yeah, you should have expected that. Because
Yeah.
when you going forward in life, Trayon, when you going forward in life, expect it. Just say hello to your haters and you keep pushing forward for the people who stand behind you.
Amen. Appreciate that. Um, I did want to ask about what I didn't hear exactly what adult charter school you went to. I didn't
Okay,
know.
I attended the Academy of Hope, Ward
Okay.
8 on top of Martin Luther King Library. It's
Okay.
connected to a church.
Yep. On Alabama, at Martin Luther King right there. Okay, got it.
Hmm.
Got it. And are you still there?
No, sir, no. I had to leave that school. See,
Okay.
one thing I am a analytic person. If I bring a situation to your attention and you're responsible for the overhead of what's going on in your establishment, you do nothing about it and it gets swept under the rug. To me, it's a bad seed that's gonna continue to grow and eventually spread. So when you have a bad seed pulling down on a negative root, it's not gonna work for a good root. Because
Yes.
what's gonna happen is you're gonna cause a train wreck. So but I stayed. After Miss Cook passed, I promised her that I would stay, I would finish. So right now I'm 3/4 of the way finished because I came here to the MLK library.
Okay.
If you had if you had tutors in the Anacostia library, I probably would have never made it this one. But they sent me here. I fell in love with being here, and I'm gonna finish here.
All right. So you said there's no tutors at Anacostia Library.
You really don't have any tutors in pretty much in a lot of libraries. Anacostia being one that can really use it because on Good Hope Road, you have students who go to school off of Good Hope Road. You have a few adults who go to Bread for the City who's seeking some type of education and some type of training. Although it's probably out here, but it's scarce. And I'm not one on the outside looking in. I'm on the inside looking out of it. I'm a part of it. I've watched people cry when their food stamps got taken from $100+ a month to now $40 and $50 a month. And the line is from Bread from the City all the way past the old Bread for the City. I'm hearing cries of people not having enough to eat. I'm hearing people who can't afford an education who packs up in your library on Anacostia, who's trying to find some way, who's being directed to the MLK library for tutors. I know there's Trayon, it is so much that's not being brought to the table to your attention. But then when like they say, when stuff hits the fan, everybody want that 2 or 3 second minute of glory in the news. The laundromat on Good Hope Road, I thought you was gonna start an argument about that, turning that into something. Because that right there could be something right there. That lot has been empty since the pandemic. The dollar store has been shut down since the pandemic. You know, these right here was functioning businesses. But now that they're shut down and there's nothing there except a bunch of crowds, trouble. And that's something that I know in my heart and my spirit that you're trying to alleviate. You're trying to give Ward 8 a better look than what it's been given. And the only way it's gonna happen is people reach out to you or your staff and bring these things to your attention. These businesses been closed. That laundromat was supposed to be turned into an AANA meeting spot. It hasn't been done yet. That dollar store's been shut down. Ain't
Which
nobody
laundromat on Good Hope
there.
Road? With
The one
Marionville
on
Avenue?
Good Hope Road, right up the street from where you was protesting.
So I was just there, and I don't want to digress. I know I'm over my time. I go
Okay,
but it's an art. It's transformed into an art exhibit, art museum with some kids in there. They just had an exhibit 2 nights ago. One of the young men did a presentation, and so
Mhm.
our work. He went through a lot of trials and tribulations. He came down to a hearing to testify about him shot 8 times, him in and out of jail, and his judge helped him to get into Dietrich's program, Capitol Hill Boys Club, art display at that particular location. So it has been repurposed. So it's just not vacant anymore. But we're looking to figure out what to do with other spaces in and around that corridor.
Okay, well, if you got any, if I come up with any ideas, I need some way to reach out to you because I'm
Man,
very creative when it
I
comes
s-
to helping others. I
just
love
check it.
giving back. It's not money to me. It's about the blessing. God gave me a second chance at life. Didn't cost him anything to do it. It's not gonna cost me anything to pay it forward.
I appreciate that, sir. Sent you my
Chairman, may
information.
I ask a question? I'm so sorry. As you know, I used to be the director of the Washington Literacy Council, and we had been working last year, actually, through the Friends of MLK with the Anacostia Library. The librarian there was very interested in doing adult literacy assistance on site at the library. And there are other libraries around the city we believe are interested. Could I be put in touch with Mr. Carter so perhaps we could meet and talk about his ideas
Yeah,
and
he
where
can
we could
send it.
help?
Mr. Cod, I just sent, you can send your information to Miss Robin in the chat and you can
Okay,
connect, but I also have some ideas around that kind of on a more larger scale.
that'd
Okay,
be great. Thank you.
thank you. I'm sorry for
Councilman
taking your
Lord
time, Mr.
George.
I'm sorry.
Awesome. Thank you, Councilmember White. I want to first thank this panel of witnesses. I'm going to ask some questions. First to my ANC commissioners, Commissioner Amin and Commissioner Pinckney. In the conversations I've been having with DMPED and with DCPL, one thing that has come up is sort of a question of whether the library would be utilized, like whether there was going to be enough usage to substantiate this new resource. Talk to me about what you know about your community and all the ways in which they would use it, and how much usage do you think this library would get, especially in this community?
You want to go or you want me to go, Abel?
Go ahead, Commissioner. I'll go after you.
Okay, good morning, Councilwoman. The community is so geared up and ready for this library on a number of levels. As you know, we have pre-K and pre-K. I don't know, I don't have any little ones, but they're ready to expand opportunities for these babies to have access to a library and a structured environment in which to learn about their reading and excellence and to explore their opportunities to just be creative. My seniors, oh my goodness, my SMD is so filled with seniors, and many of them just stay home because they have no safe place to go in the neighborhood. Even if they could just go and sit and just read their favorite book or work on the word finds, or if they have opportunity to reach out and touch writers and or impart the knowledge that they have after being on this planet for more than half a century. That's where they would be. We have a lot of people, unfortunately, who are out here who have no place to live. They would be there and they would have a warm place, a cool place in which to be and to feel safe. We could, the schools, the number of schools we have in the neighborhood could expand their reach. We are now in the process through our partnership with a doctor from the University of Maryland to getting our data. And that's why Councilman White's question today, I wrote it down, will be added to the questionnaire so that we can actually have some hard data about where people are going to the library now, if they are. I am so happy that this is not just a 4D issue. This library is going to impact everybody. You know, people on the task force, the chair of 4B, somebody from 4C, 4A. This is a community opportunity. And also this corridor, there's so many developers who have projects where they want to charge people millions of dollars for their living spaces. But with an area with no foot traffic, there's no, even though we're on a major bus line, there is no way to say, hey, I can go out of my home and walk down the street and get a meal or, you know, just have a sense of community. And to have this library here would become a hub for this. Also, when you give men and women only two choices for excelling outside of, let's say, the public school environment, they're going to choose one of them. Well, this library would give access to ideas and opportunities that are not just at the end of the street, but will expand the opportunity to look at the world. We in the United States are below the excellence of many students around the world who actually are less fortunate in having things than we are. Here on the Kennedy Street corridor, we have survived crack epidemic. We have survived COVID. We have survived poverty. We have survived crime. There are still people who have lived here for years, and they're not going anywhere. But if you look around at our neighborhood, you can see the difference in the investment of our city. See, it's not just Black folks who are hurting in Wards 7 and 8. It's not just communities who look like those communities in Wards 7 and 8. There are children here in Ward 4 with no family, no food every day, no place to go. We all share common interests. And with this library, it will also allow us to touch each other. Can you imagine having a library/media center that can offer opportunity to teach our kids about how to run a radio station or a TV station, and maybe come up with ways to compete with Ward 4 and Ward 5 and have something positive? Competitions for excellence are not just on a basketball court. We have to do things and understand that the development of minds is just as important as the development of recreation and sports. We have to start celebrating it. And it is just like I was there to save that library on Good Hope Road. I used to live in Marbury Plaza, and they were going to tear it down. And if you look back on the internet, I didn't know they had the picture. But we got out there, we had a media thing go, and we saved that library. They decided as a result to build it and not just slate the land for something else.
Wow.
Well, I believe that we can do things. Okay, I gave you a long answer for a short question.
No, you've been doing so much great work, and I didn't even know about your efforts with Marbury Plaza and living in Marbury Plaza. So thank you for sharing that. And just thank you for giving an intersection of like we're all one DC at the end of the day, and we have shared issue. We share in our stories, and I think me and Councilmember White just always talk about it all the time, like both growing up as young Black people, young kids in DC, and like the ways in which we have shared in the struggles that we have experienced. And I just think you've really highlighted it, and I appreciate your answer. I want to give Commissioner Amin an opportunity. Commissioner, we've gotten some pushback like about library usage and whether it's worth the resources to build this, because are the people going to come if we build it? And are they going to utilize it? Are they going to use it? Now, I think a library is a public good, so versus sort of just a business and in that regard. But I just want you to talk to me about what you know about your community and our community that would let you know that this library would be heavily utilized for in various ways.
Yeah, there's many things we can point out. For example, our ANC itself could use the library as a meeting place. We need a good space. We are currently using schools around the neighborhood, but that public library could be a place for the ANC itself to meet. I don't know. I mean, y'all. I know, Councilmember, you know this. There's quite a few childcare centers that are located on Kennedy Street, and you see the little, toddlers, little kids walking around in a row. This could be an opportunity for them to walk to the library, right, and use the library. Currently, there's no place. Actually, what I know about ANC4D is that there is a lack of public spaces that people can just go and and just enjoy the space. Currently, that's what we need, right? So a place for people to go and learn and do activities or hold meetings, whatever it is, that this library could accommodate that. And I just want to uplift to what Mr. Carter was saying about the adult learning programs. Those kinds of programs is exactly what we need to address the issues in this my neighborhood and in the district as a whole, right? So there's just so many services that a library can provide that help address so many other issues. So I want to highlight all of those. And I want to bring it back to the fact that I am myself a student, and a place to go and study is very important for someone like me in undergrad, but also anyone from from the pre-K all the way up to high school and everything. So like that is one of the many reasons we should have a library and why a library is needed. The neighborhood, my SMD has quite a few apartments on it. That's on Longfellow, which is 1 block away. There's a row of apartments that stretch from from First all the way down to 13th even. So all of those apartment buildings have people that live in them that would have quick access, 1 block access to a library, which is all the reasons we need this. And I testified at the DEMPED hearing and heard some responses there. And I want to just emphasize that there is a high demand for a library, and we should build it as quickly as possible, as Councilmember White has said, and move up the timeline as much as possible. Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Councilmember George, my final thing, after listening to all of the people today, I also think that we really need to have a community opportunity for all of these organizations, the Friends of Libraries. Washington, D.C. is the capital of nonprofit organizations. There's no reason that these nonprofit organizations can't somehow come together and offer opportunities to tutor. There are people who are not a part of that, who just have all this knowledge, who just want to do something. But the problem is there's no plan. Everybody's just in their own world doing whatever. But today I heard some real important social desires to make people's lives better. And these organizations keep getting roadblocks, and it's primarily with how much money they can and cannot pay for access to a space that is a common area. And it seems to me that if this is a a problem across the board, then we have to start thinking
Yeah.
outside of it and create.
Thank you. I know I'm way far over my time. I want to respect Chairman White. So thank you so much. And I agree with you, and I appreciate your testimony. I know they have to move to the next panel. All right.
We can't hear Chairman. We can't hear Mr. White because his microphone is muted.
Yeah, okay. I will do it. We'll move to the next panel, which is Michael Thomas, Olivia Stitlis, Zachary Israel, Lynn Feingold, Catherine Harris, Irene Kellogg, Rayshawn Turner, Gabrielle Cascio, Funke Iduo, Cheryl Barnes, and I apologize if I have butchered anyone's name. Please correct the record. Thank you. Michael Thomas, I see you. You are the first witness. We will receive your testimony at this time if you can unmute.
Thank you, Councilmember White and Councilmember George. I appreciate the chance to testify about the performance of our libraries. I'm Michael Thomas. I've lived in the West End for about 30 years, and I volunteer as a vice president of our local West End Library Friends Group and also as a docent at MLK Libraries. So I've had a variety of exposures to what the library does. I filed written testimony, but I won't read all that to you. I want to emphasize a few points. Facilities are very important, of course, and I've been really struck by the testimony of the mobile library and the efforts to have a new library in Ward 4. Boy, do I support that, because my experience with our branch library is that it is absolutely critical to our community, to our neighborhood. That's where we meet. That's where we learn. That's where we have events. That's where we can interact with the excellent library staff. That's where people who have special needs can have a lot of that addressed. Collections are also critical. Usage is up, so we can't have the collections being hollowed out. But what's really critical is the staff. Our library staff is extraordinary, and it's critical to all of the services, programs, exhibits, events, outreach that the library does. So every event, every effort has to be made to support, enhance, protect the staffing. Computers can do a lot, but really most of the most important things that you do with a library require you to get into the building and actually access the space and deal with the people, and that requires staff. And they have to be open 7 days a week. And I support the testimony of an earlier witness that they should be open in the evenings, because that's when a lot of people really have an opportunity. In my file testimony, I mentioned other things. There's an onerous requirement for insurance for events held at libraries, which limits what people like the Friends groups can do at the libraries. And there should be some way of collectively addressing that. There's a real concern about security, I think in some places more than others, but the MPD statistics are pretty clear that both violent crime and property crime have been going up over the last couple of years in the immediate vicinity of libraries. And there is a real need to provide support for patrons with peer outreach and social worker, where you can help them, where you can identify the need of the patron and give them understanding, but also connect them to services which may or may not be available in the library itself. I wanted to address one other thing, but my time is going to run out. And that was the public partnership that West End Library does demonstrate. We love our library and we love that building. And for us, it works. And there was some affordable housing provided, although not in that structure, but in the structure over the firehouse. There was also a dedicated maintenance fund that was set up as an inducement to the developer to enter into the project, but also as a promise to the neighborhood that the public part of this building would be maintained to the same very high standards that the rest of the building was. And last year, as I'm sure the council members know, the mayor was looking for money and she emptied that fund. And that's a shame, because going forward, you want to be able to say to communities and to developers, when we make a promise like this, we keep it. So I would urge the council not to do that again. We have a wonderful library system. Thank you for supporting it, doing everything you can, and let's all work to make it better.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Next, I don't see Olivia. I do not see Zachary at this time, but he noted he would sign back on. Israel would sign back on at 11:30. It's 11:20. I do see Lynn Feingold. So Lynn, thank you. Good morning. You may offer your testimony.
Thank you for the opportunity. Should I begin?
Yes, you may begin your testimony.
Should I begin?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm an elder and you can hear me. I'm an elder who didn't grow up with technology. And without the help of the Martin Luther King Library, I would be at a loss. I've taken classes in Excel, PowerPoint, Word, and basics of the computer. And I have found in today's world, one can't survive.
Lynn, you've gone out. Lynn, I think you went out. I'm going to give you a second to see if you can come back on. If not, Catherine Harris, I'm going to come to you in a moment if Lynn audio is not working properly. Okay, it looks like we lost her for a second. Catherine Harris, you can go give your testimony and then we'll come back to Lynn if she signs back on. Good morning and good to see you. Thank you for being here. And if you could unmute and give your testimony, that would be great.
First of all, I'd like to thank you, Councilmember Janice George, for reaching back to me when I contacted you in December of 2022 about a traumatic experience that I had at the library. I want to reiterate what everybody has said about the positivity of the library, and in particularly the Martin Luther King Library, because that is the one that I visit and work in mostly. I think that the executive director has done an extraordinary job. I want to backtrack a little bit. And my mother always told me, if you're going to criticize, say something nice before, and maybe the people will listen to you. So I think he's done a magnificent job of providing services, activities, museum exhibits, etc. So I don't want to go over all of that, what other people have said. I also want to commend, excuse me, a library employee named Dubian Campbell. Dubian Campbell facilitates 3 different types of activities. And I really think that he's brilliant, he's genius. I think he should get a promotion. And in general, I think most of the librarians are really supportive. But underneath all of that is a tremendous state of white supremacy. And I would like to mention maybe 2 or 3 incidents in which this has been an issue for me. One incident is the incident that I wrote to you about, Councilmember Janice George. When I had gone to the Miriam's kitchen, and this server said to me, "Get your hands off of this table." And I had spoken to the director, Jenny Roberts, several times about the attitude and the disrespectful behavior that these servers, some servers, has exhibited. And she just said, "Oh, we have to be patient, blah, 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 blah." But when that happened, that was the end of the rope for me. I had to report it. So I sent a message to the executive director and to the director of the DC Central Kitchen. And they basically dismissed it. The executive director said, "Well, I go into Miriam's kitchen every day. And, you know, I've heard that the servers are very good, are very nice." Well, that's fine. They know who you are. They're not going to disrespect you. And then I got an email from Mr. Curtis that says that there was a backstory. And that backstory was making suggestions while being Black. I had suggested to Director Ms. Roberts that I had a friend who could make various kinds of muffins. It was just a suggestion. First of all, I am the daughter of Sally Mae Farmer Harris and Beeman Harris. I am a virtual member of Abyssinia Baptist Church. I am an alumni of Howard University. I am a human being and I'm a Black woman. And I do not expect to be treated this way. It is unacceptable. And
Yeah, I understand. Thank you. You're over time, and I want to respect the other witnesses we have here. So I know Councilman White may have some questions during the time to have questions. So just stay on for those questions so you can go a little bit more into detail. Thank you.
okay, thank you.
Next, we are going to have, I don't see Irene Kellogg. I don't see Rayshawn Turner. Gabrielle Casquillo is not here. Funke Idua. I'm so sorry for butchering your name. Please correct the record. And good morning, and thank you for being here. I see your image, but do you have the ability to unmute yourself? Okay, I see your video moving a little bit. It might be a technical issue. Okay. While you work out your technical issues, Ms. Idua, I'm going to go to Cheryl Barnes. Good morning, Cheryl, and thank you so much for being here to provide your testimony.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Wonderful. Good day. I'm Cheryl Barnes, representing Chevy Chase Voice, a 501c4 nonprofit, started last spring to give a voice to residents. Chevy Chase Voice, with its 1,300 and counting resident supporters, strongly opposed the city's plan to redevelop the Chevy Chase Library, Community Center, and Commons Park in Ward 3/4. These treasured public resources should remain fully public for the benefit of the community and for all DC residents. We oppose any residential or commercial development on this site. And I won't belabor you with a long talking point about the benefits of a public open space where the community, young and old, may gather without judgment to engage socially. That said, I don't know why that happened, but it appears to be corrected. That said, if the DC Council really cares about its youth residents, it will rehabilitate the common site to benefit the thousands of young people from all over DC who do not have an in-person voice at this hearing and who use these public resources rather than voting to serve the city plans to surplus and deliver ill-gotten taxpayer-owned land to the development community. 21 libraries, 21, throughout DC have been rebuilt without DC requiring that they be crammed under incompatible mixed-use commercial and residential. Many neighborhoods have successfully pushed back against DC's efforts to include mixed use at their library sites. West End is the only exception with its WeWork-style coffee bar atmosphere with $1 to $4 million condominiums atop a library of sorts. DC resident respondents to the 2023 ANC survey strongly opposed by 63% placing any housing at the Chevy Chase Commons. And further, the respondents want to keep 100% of the park and its adjacent patron parking at the site. The survey results were dismissed by 4 of the ANC 3/4G commissioners, including Chairperson Lisa Gore, completely disregarding their responsibility under DC law to represent their constituents, and instead supported the city's plan to benefit commercial real estate developers with rich profits at the expense of DC taxpayers through the city's proposed $1 a year for 99 years lease scheme. DCPL indicated in 2023 that the library of Chevy Chase Commons would share space with the Chevy Chase Community Center and a new mixed building with commercial, residential, and retail. And it could be reduced by 5,000 square feet co-located on the first floor of the proposed mixed use building with the library. And we say, how will there be adequate room for the community center and library activities in this redesigned shared space in a smaller facility? What is DCPL actually recommending for the library plus community center plus mixed use shared space? Transparency to the taxpayers and community that uses this resource is imperative and very much missing from the discussion. The 2 buildings on this site were designed to support 3rd floors, and if those were built, could provide space for long overdue Ward 3/4G Senior Center and a public pre-K to alleviate the overcrowding at Lafayette Elementary in Ward 4 that serves our Chevy Chase DC residents. I need a page turner. The RFP said it will prioritize bids with minimal parking. It also states that underground parking could be provided, 1 space for every 2.5 apartments, as well as hotel and retail parking, and for staff. No parking is required to be provided for those who use the library, community center, or park. And in fact, the RFP discourages proposals from including parking from these facilities. Because of the lack of useful public transportation and the proposed removal of public parking, the public facilities will be inaccessible for most of the people who need to use them. The Commons Park Sports Court is fully occupied 6 days a week by pickleball players and at other times by pickup basketball games. During the summer, the campers use the space. In the spring, yoga and other classes go outside and use the park surrounding the library and community center. The small playground is used by preschool, families who use the library and the community center, and summer campers. There's an EPA rain garden, reading benches, and picnicking tables. Numerous trees shade the site, both special and heritage trees. The park serves those who reside in the neighborhood in multifamily dwellings who do not have private yards. The park currently covers 60% of the site. It's gone if this happens. The Commons Park is the only public green space on Connecticut Avenue from Van Ness Street to the Maryland border. It appears to be impossible to build 200 plus units plus mixed use and also preserve the park. How can these two public facilities with competing purposes be co-located, and how can other proposed mixed use at the site coexist with these public uses?
Thank you.
Voice urges the City Council to do DC's youth a great service and vote against the gross misuse of public land. We beg you to leave our scant community resources alone. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Irene, I see you've been able to join and work out your technical issues. That's wonderful. We're so happy to see you. Good morning. And you can unmute and begin your testimony.
Thank you. Thank you. This has been an eye-opener. First time, and I'm just learning so much just sitting and listening. This is terrific. I'll try to hurry up and get through this. I would give you all a coffee break, but you can't do that. All right. I said thank you to everybody. My name is Irene Kellogg, like the cereal, but no money. My public library is a savior to me. Forgive my religiosity or the hyperbole here, but the references is meant sincerely. I have witnessed miracles, the miracles that can and has been performed for the wealthy, the poor, and the in-between people in my community. In my opinion, DCPL system earns a 4-star. I would have given it 5, but after listening to the stuff, I can't give it 5. I'll say 4-star for its overall service to the community. Specifically, I am a resident of Brooklyn, and Woodridge Public Library is the facility I frequent, and I've experienced good service. From the moment one enters the door, the openness and the freedom to explore as you wish is there. For example, you got a community board that's got lots of stuff on it. My cat's missing and people have services they want to provide. You go further into the door and there's a big sign that says books for tots, plenty of giveaways for upcoming events, speakers, free books, as I said, for children, tax information. Sometimes you get authors. I don't know if you can see, but this one, and I'm holding things, and it's not good to do this kind of thing through the Zoom meetings, but authors.
Yeah, I can see it. Looks good. Yeah, I can see
but
it.
this is just one of the many authors that come and give talks to. She was a member of one of the Muskogee Creek Indians. I mean, just wonderful, wonderful programs. If you're just, the Black History Month, I'll have to mention that also. This month was just an extraordinary exhibit. The books that were out there that I go, wow, wow, I didn't know these things existed. So that library has it going on. But if you would allow me to just share a sort of an in-depth short encounter I had several years ago to illustrate the point about helpful staff and service at Woodridge. I made a call to Special Collections Division to ask if their division might be interested in obtaining or acquiring the photographic collection of a professional photographer named Ed Fletcher. His daughter lives in Washington State. Ed Fletcher, by the way, I'm sorry, is deceased. Anyway, the daughter was trying to unload all of his stuff. Nobody in her family, you know, wanted to deal with the work and all that would be involved. So I got her permission to call and ask DC Public Library. I got a patient archivist named Ray Barker. And I don't want to keep dropping names, but I mentioned him because Ray isn't well, but that's one name I'll present here. Anyway, Ray listened carefully and he said, well, can you submit some digital images? Let me see what this guy has to offer. So I had everything ready to do.
You're a little bit over time, and so Councilmember White will give you an opportunity to share a little bit more. I appreciate you for recognizing the members of the
I'm sorry. Yeah, I didn't know how long one would have to
yeah,
talk.
so just stay on, and I'm sure you know it will be.
That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine.
No
Thank you
problem.
all for listening.
Thank you so much for sharing your story.
I can submit the written thing.
I see we have Zach Israel here, who is on this panel, who is a former 4D commissioner, a strong advocate for Kennedy Street Library, but now is mostly father to Milo and Elliot. Mr. Israel, are you here? I know he had to run for work.
Yeah,
so
he had to run. I'm trying to see if he's still here. I
he
see.
was. Okay, there we
There he
go.
is. Go ahead. Thank you so much.
Hey, hi, Chairperson White, Councilmember Lewis Storage. Great to see you all. Really appreciate you accommodating my schedule. I'll be very brief. And I just emailed over my written testimony to both of you. So if you were unable to see that, that should be in your inbox now. I submitted it last night. So I'm sort of going to speak off the cuff here. You all are very familiar with the Kennedy Street Library. My concerns right now, and I got to hear some of your comments, Councilmember Lewis George, earlier in the hearing, has to do with ensuring that DEMPED and the newly permanent Deputy Mayor Albert are serious about actually using the $5 million that you secured in FY24 for site acquisition. I did some digging around, and I have footnotes in my written testimony. You can look at the documents from the DC Public Library and DMPED that seem to suggest some contradictory things. There's a capital project document from DCPL for FY24 that would seem to indicate that the $5 million in site acquisition won't be completed until fall 2025. So 18 months from now is when that would be done. That's a document I have sourced there, well outside the end of FY24. So that's a problem that we need clarification from Executive Director Ray Escavalon as to why that is the case and what's going on. I know that the Executive Director had a briefing with the now Deputy Mayor about a month ago or so. I'd love to hear about the details of that briefing. So that's something that I urge you, Chair White and Councilman Lewis George, to ask the director, and I know he's watching right now, and his staff, to give more insight into what exactly he told Nina Albert a few weeks ago. We deserve to know what his recommendation was, because our neighborhood deserves it. The second thing that I want to flag for you all is in DCPL's response, pre-hearing response to this hearing. When asked about the Kennedy Street Library specifically and the Shepherd Park Library, they make it very clear that the $25 million in capital construction for Ward 4 libraries will exclusively be for the Shepherd Park Library for rehab or renovation, which I'm not opposed to using at least a healthy amount of that funding for that. But the way that they've characterized it is that all $25 million will just be for that, and none of it will be for a new Kennedy Street Library. And that is very problematic, and that was not my assumption over the last 2 years that I've been testifying on this. And certainly the council will need to probably provide more funding overall, but to completely make it that disparity is not fair to the new library on Kennedy Street. And we need clarification from Director Reyes-Gavilan. So I'll leave it there. Thank you for all your work on this. Let's get it done. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate you, Councilmember Janice Lewis, for assisting me. I apologize. I had two different meetings scheduled at the same time, but we tuned in and listening and trying to figure out how we can be more attentive to the services provided and the needs in different communities at our local libraries. Let me see. Is Ms. Lynn Feingold here? See her on the screen, but I don't. If you can touch your camera screen on this one.
Okay, are you guys ready for me now?
Yeah, we're ready for you now.
I had a lot of technology issues. Can everyone hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you perfect.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can't hear me, right? You can.
Yes.
Should I start?
Yes, please.
Okay, great. So, hello, I'm an elder who didn't grow up with technology. And without the help of the Martin Luther King Library, I would be at a loss. I've taken classes in Excel, PowerPoint, Word, and the basics of the computer. And in today's world, one cannot survive without understanding and using some kind of technology. Even doctors' offices don't like to call back. They want you to go into the portal. In my humble opinion, there's not enough empathy and understanding how challenging technology can be for those of us who didn't grow up with it. That is why I am so appreciative of the Martin Luther King Outreach and Technology, and I'm testifying today. Please, please don't get rid of this support. I not only attend the class, and that's where I am right today. I'm at the Martin Luther King Library working with the digital navigator. My life is better because of it, and I spread the word so others can benefit too. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so I don't see Miss Irene, you already spoke, correct?
Did you hear all that?
Yes, we did.
My technology went out again.
All good.
You heard it?
Yes. And I just
can't
want
hear
to
you
let
guys. I don't know if you're here.
Yep, I just want to let you know.
Yes.
Uh,
I'll send my written
okay, that'll be perfect.
response. Okay.
So we can make sure all the committee members have it as well. But Mr. Israel, we will be following up with the director and Dempez, new director, with deputy mayor, in reference to that as well, amongst other things. But that's on our agenda. So I want to thank you for that.
Okay, so do you need me anymore? My computer keeps going out.
We will try to reach you back again. Yes. So
Well, I'll try to stay on if you want to ask me any
yes,
questions
please,
otherwise.
if you can,
Okay.
that will be helpful.
I've been on since 10 o'clock.
I appreciate your patience.
So you were able to hear what I said?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And I have another a meeting at noon. If we can do it in 5 minutes, that would be great.
We will try. I want to ask Miss Barnes. I can see you talking, but I can't hear you. Nothing yet. And I see it's unmuted, but it still can hear you. Try again. See if you can talk, because I can let you know if I can hear you or not. Nope. I'm reading your lips saying, can you hear me? I can see it. But I'll come back to you. No problem. Just keep trying. Mr. Thomas, uh, you spoke about the loss of specific staff positions. If you can speak to what staff positions you feel are the highest priority to fill at the library, and also if you can start with that, that'll be fine. I have another follow-up question.
That's a very difficult question, council member, because I think it depends so much on who the patron is. I mean, we heard just now from somebody who really benefited from the digital outreach. We heard earlier from Jeffrey Carter and how he was helped. And so, I mean, there are different members of the staff at the library who do these different functions. I mean, we love our branch library staff. We feel very fortunate to the director and the other people who work there, who put together an enormous variety of programs for children and various kinds of community outreach. And I also, I think, indicated I volunteer as a docent at MLK, and so I have an appreciation for how important all the services are that are offered at MLK, everything from the Accessibility Center to the Adult Learning Center to the labs to the exhibits that are put on, which in some cases are really important as educational efforts. So I'm hard put to say. I don't want to come across as nominating anybody for elimination, I guess.
Yeah, I got you. I appreciate your brevity on that. I think I do have a question. You mentioned security, but you also I take it that you're not in support of wanding and metal detectors. If you can give me some clarity on that, that'd be helpful.
Well, I think nobody wants to go as far as magnetometers and wanding if we can avoid it. I think the more of a physical security presence we can afford to have, the better. I mean, somebody earlier made the point that everybody's on their best behavior when they see that there's somebody looking after security. And I don't want to put forward the idea that the West End Library is the #1 priority in that regard, although we have had some violent crime in the area. I think it's also important that we make sure that the monitoring and alarm systems are the best set of selections for each location, so that you really have a handle on who's in the area and the alarm function. So those are my observations.
Thank you for that. And Ms. Harris,
Yeah,
I know you were speaking and was cut off while you were talking.
right.
We're trying to bring some valid points. If you had anything to add in addition to that, you got an extra minute you can share of my time. I yield it to you before I go to the next person.
Okay, well, I'd just like to point out another incident that I had and some comments. A librarian named Jennifer Forster at the MLK Library called the police on me because I plugged in my computer at a pillow where there was an outlet. And I was told by other patrons that there's a lot of harassment. In addition to that, there was an incident at the West End Library in which a woman who was physically challenged, someone in the library called the police on her because she was sitting in a tent outside of the library. So I think that your office needs to take a very serious look at the undercurrent racism and white supremacy that permeates the library system. And lastly, I think that this is the Martin Luther King Library. Dr. King would be very upset if we did not do our best for homeless people and people who have mental health issues. And I think that we need to get to the root of the problem, and security is not that root.
Got it. Thank you.
Mhm.
I'm sending you my email and also Cal's email. If you can send us the details of that so we can follow up.
Okay, I'd be happy to.
Done.
Okay.
Okay.
You put it in the chat?
I'm still doing it.
Okay, thank you.
There it is. It's there. All right. I'm jumping around a little bit. Miss Barnes, are you back yet? Let me see.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
Amazing.
There we go.
Okay, I had to reboot. I'm sorry.
Yes. So we're thinking about the current size of Chevy Chase Library, and the projected size under the new plan. What's your thoughts on the ability to serve versus what's there now and what's the projected plans for the next size?
The current buildings, it's not just the library, it's also the community center, two separate buildings.
Okay.
They currently take up between 35 and 40% of the whole parcel of land. It's actually two parcels, but the site, let's just say the site.
You said
The,
they who? Which they take up that?
the two buildings take up between 35 and 40%. The proposed new zoning for this allows them to take up 60% of the land, and it would be a much bigger building, obviously, 80 feet tall. They're currently 2 stories plus basements. As I said, they are built to both handle 3rd story, so we could get the much needed pre-K, which hasn't, I mean, it's not even in the RFP that we need this pre-K, nor is it in the RFP that we desperately need a senior center. And that has long been, those two things have long been desired for this site. This area does not have a senior center, a public senior center, and the pre-K is splitting its seams. So we're, as a community, baffled as to why these two really critical things can't be put on the site. They would coexist perfectly with the community center and the library. Does that come close to answering that question?
Yes, it does. And so we're gonna get the actual plans so we can analyze it, to figure out what fits where. Because as you know, the new DC comp plan changes a lot of spaces and usages. And sometimes developers edit those plans and go higher. And they could. I haven't seen the current land use of that property. I heard you say 60%, but I know they can go higher because the new air rights. So we just want to know about that, how that space will be utilized.
The Chevy Chase small area plan has those buildings at the proposed, and I believe this is in line with the comp plan, proposed to be 6 stories. Now the buildings are proposed to be 8 stories, which is requiring the new zoning. There's an issue with the new zoning because it was set down as rulemaking. This particular site should be contested because there's one owner. So it seems to us that the zoning set down needs to be redone. I know it's getting a little bit in the weeds there, but there are some issues with the way the zoning was set down. And the SAP, the way this was presented to the community in the small area plan, which I believe is in line with the comp plan, is not what's being presented to us now.
Okay. Oh, okay. Well, they won't be. I mean, being as it's a government entity, they will be communicating and working through that. And I'm not sure if there's a letter or anything from the Advisory Neighborhood Commission of how they feel about it. But if it is, we will be looking for something from them because they have to weigh in on it.
They did weigh in on it, and they went against the majority of the people in the community who responded to an ANC 3/4G survey that was designed by the ANC with professional consultants, and the community weighed in very, very strongly. The majority said no housing at this site, and a number of other things, that they are desperate to keep their park. We use the park. It's the only green space we have from, really Woodley Park all the way up to the Maryland border. This is our park. And from everything that we've heard, that park is going away if this plan moves forward.
Okay.
It's a public park.
If you have that survey or have access to the survey, let us know who has the survey. If you could send it to myself or
I would
Kyle.
be happy to do that. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. I'm sending you. Okay. Okay. We'll weigh in on that. And Miss Irene, did you want to add anything? I'm a little over my time, but I know Councilman Lewis George was promising more time to speak, so I don't want to honor that.
It's not related to the written testimony, but someone needs to maybe look or check. A long time ago, I'm a kid now at this point, Langston Terrace public housing had within that huge complex a library, and I remember it as a child, going into the Langston project and going into that building that housed a library within the community. And I think there was some mention by somebody about libraries within housing. So look back into the early 50s, because the wheel has already been created on that issue of putting libraries within complexes.
Okay.
I'm just FYI.
All right, thank you. We're gonna go to the next panel. I know we have Funke Adowu, and make sure you collect the emails or numbers in the chat before you log off. Funke Adowu. Who else do we have? I think that's it. Rashawn Turner, Gabrielle Castillo. If anyone else is in the waiting room and didn't get a chance to speak yet, please raise your hand before we go to our government witnesses, because we will not be able to go back.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Good morning, Councilmember White, esteemed council members and committee staff. I owe my life to the library. It saved me from death. My name is Olufunke Funke Ido, and I'm a proud Washington, D.C. resident. I have been living in Ward 3, Friendship Heights to be exact, for going on 5 years now. I first came into contact with the District of Columbia Public Libraries, also known as DCPL, in late 2019, early 2020, and that was at my local library, Tenley Town Library. I was being assisted by a lovely library associate, Miss Bill Jana, who has now moved on to the Library of Congress with useful mini training programs on resume writing. The COVID-19 pandemic lockdown put a pause on my going physically to the library, but the virtual access was a good alternative. I was diagnosed with a degenerative autoimmune condition in late 2020 and had to change my career path to fit into my new reality. I am an attorney by training of 34 years standing this year, a certified mediator, a management consultant business owner, and a human resource workforce development professional. This is where the Adult Learning Center of the MLK Library comes in. I desired to update and upgrade my technology skills as I transitioned into the world of technology. Indeed, the last formal training I had was in 1998, 1999, and that was in the Microsoft Windows as it was then known. I had access to experts in technology at that time and had no reason to learn the skills I now possess for myself. The world has moved on right now, and to paraphrase a quote I heard, the new world has 3 basic needs: food, shelter, and technology skills. Everything is online now. I found amazing digital training classes and courses and a community of empathic, non-judgmental people, especially our energetic, experienced, and animated library associate and trainer, Mr. Michael Rivera, who is a fantastic teacher and formed good relationships with the library crew, from the cleaners to the security, and of course, the library associates and managers. The DCPL, particularly the MLK Library, has transformed my life and has given me the hope, tools, and skills required to be active in the labor market and in my current field of workforce development. I am proud to testify that utilizing the trainings, being registered for exams I would ordinarily not have been able to afford, has led me to now being gainfully employed as a case manager TANF program for the DC government through one of their contract partners. I utilized with ease the knowledge I garnered from the Adult Learning Center. So Google Workspace, Canva, the updated Microsoft Office suite of products, and more in my current position. This would not have been possible without the funding the DPCL utilized in registering me and many others for life-transforming training courses and examinations. I sit here proud to announce that I am a holder of the IC3 Level 1 certificate, as well as having 2 badges of completion on my Google cybersecurity training, all made possible by the DCPL. I further testify today that with the funding MLK Library received, I and others have testified from being mere immigrants to becoming full American citizens by taking the vital US citizenship preparation class. I will have my naturalization interview and ceremony before the end of this year. This is all kudos to the wealth of programs available at our libraries, especially the MLK Library. I urge the council to listen again and again, not to defund the library system, but instead increase funding so we can have more programs and reach more people in diverse communities that make up Washington District of Columbia. The library is a melting pot and point for immigrants and citizens, bringing a diversity in thoughts, ideas, beliefs, and culture. I thoroughly enjoy the myriad of activities I actively participate in, and those I know are available for me should I require them. The library is a home away from home for me and countless others who find temporary refuge there, be it physical, mental, or psychological. The library literally saved my life and brought me back from the brink of despair and suicidal thoughts. I love my library, and I proudly wear its badge. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. We always want to hear about the remarkable work of the staff there at the Rex, and also the offerings and how that helps people to attain certain skills and learn about different opportunities. I wanted to ask you, Ms. Odowu, how did you hear about this life training program?
I heard about it through the library associate that was at my local library, Tenley Town, Ms. Biljana. Okay. And we started, with the mini training programs they had then before the pandemic lockdown made everyone stay at home. So when DC opened up, she let me know that they've moved all training programs to the central library, which I think one previous speaker said, if we can have that expanded and have other library centers offer, this technology training programs. Right now, we all have to go to the central library to get that.
Okay. And you talk about the program was IC3 Level 1 certificate. What is that?
It's a digital literacy program that
Okay.
allows you to learn basic technology skills, which is needed in the workforce this period now, this new world that we're in. So it teaches you programs in Word, it teaches you community, it teaches you interacting on the internet. It teaches you about the different packages that you will use in your workspace. It teaches you about avoiding cyberbullying on the internet and several other training programs that we have access to. So we learn them in 3 stages. I just registered for level 2. And there's level 3. When you have those 3 levels, you become what they call a master in digital literacy.
Okay.
And that on a resume is an automatic door open to employers to know that, you know what you're talking about and you're going to add value to the organization.
Okay.
And
Great.
all this was made possible through, the support. I mean, we're talking thousands of dollars, and this was paid for by the MLK, the DCPL. So I'm thoroughly grateful and thankful for that privilege.
Okay. And I hear you say you're attorney and a case manager. Do
Yes.
those both of those titles intertwine or professions intertwine? How does that work?
Well, yes, for an immigrant coming into the country, I'm an attorney. I have my master's. I started my PhD before I transited to the US. One
Okay.
of the challenges we're having is that the United States, at the moment, we hope this will change, does not have recognition for foreign trained law professionals. So I've not been able to obtain my license to practice here as an
Wow.
attorney.
Wow.
Yes, which is incredible that 34 years, of experience and training is being thrown in the bin, literally. So fortunately for me, one other area of passion over the years had been in human resource workforce development. So I was able to utilize that area alongside the upgraded, digital skills that I have to get the present position I'm in.
Got it. Thank you for your testimony today. We're going to move to our government witnesses. A call on Director Richard Reyes Gavilan. And we're going to start with his open testimony in about 2 minutes. Thank you, guys.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
your time. Good afternoon, Director.
Good afternoon to you, Chair.
Yeah,
How are you?
man, it's been long days and long nights, but I'm blessed personally. But
I don't envy you guys. I was watching you yesterday, boy. That was a marathon.
yeah. But
Congratulations. That's incredibly important and hard, difficult work.
yeah, I appreciate that. And likewise, I know you've heard some of the testimony, so we're gonna get right into it. And I see you have your staff here. Hello, everyone. It is the practice of this office to swear in all government witnesses. Dr. Reyes Gavilan, and your staff, if you can cut on your screen and microphone, and so I can swear you in, and you raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give to this committee on Recreation, Library, and Youth Affairs is the truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
Right. Thank you, guys. You can go right ahead, Director, with your opening statement and with questions.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Councilmember White, members of the Committee on Recreation, Libraries, and Youth Affairs, and staff. I'm Richard Reyes Gavilan, Executive Director of the DC Public Library. I'm pleased to deliver testimony regarding the library's performance in fiscal year 2023 and accomplishments in fiscal year 2024 to date. I'm cautiously optimistic about news that overall visits to DC Public Library locations have increased from last year. There were more than 3 million visits in FY23, a 19% increase over FY22. The caution stems from the fact that the impressive increase is due largely to the phenomenal popularity of the Martin Luther King Jr. Library, which experienced an 80% increase in visits in FY23. Overall visits to our neighborhood libraries increased modestly over last year, but still remain significantly below where they were prior to the pandemic. Specifically, overall visits to neighborhood libraries remain more than 37% below where they were in 2019. In its third year since reopening, the MLK Library has made extraordinary strides in serving as a downtown cultural and civic destination, meeting the diverse needs of district residents. In addition to hosting major cultural events like Art All Night and hosting many large-scale government partnerships, including housing and job fairs with the DC Housing Authority and the Department of Employment Services, the building hosted unique exhibitions that brought tens of thousands of residents and visitors downtown. In January, we partnered with the Indianapolis Children's Museum and other cultural institutions on an exhibition entitled Emmett Till, Let the World See. In March, we partnered with the National Women's History Museum on an exhibition entitled We Who Believe in Freedom, Black Feminist DC. In April, in partnership with the Folger Shakespeare Library, DCPL celebrated the 400th anniversary of the First Folio. It's the first published collection of Shakespeare's plays, with a copy on display at MLK and an original play performed throughout many of our neighborhood libraries. Then in June, in partnership with several Italian cultural and business groups, we launched an incredibly ambitious exhibition of 12 original drawings by Leonardo da Vinci on display in the United States for the first and probably last time ever. An interactive children's exhibition, Leonardo's Lab, delighted children throughout the summer and was made possible with funding from the DC Public Library Foundation. Later this month, we will open our newest exhibition entitled Let This World Be Beautiful, which will feature our collection of more than 10 original works by DC artist educator Alma Thomas and works by DC Public Schools arts educators inspired by Thomas. And Councilmember, I do know we sent you an invitation to our opening next Friday night, the 16th. I hope you can make it. Dozens of author programs and panel discussions continue to bring people downtown, and in many cases, introduce the downtown library to new audiences. 500 people came to hear iconic civil rights activist Angela Davis in March. Throughout the year, the library partnered with the Library Foundation and Well Read Black Girl, the DC-based nonprofit organization and book club, to host 7 events featuring conversations with 11 Black women authors. Next week, as part of our impressive array of Black History Month programming, the MLK Library will host another icon, actor and author Billy D. Williams, discussing his new memoir, What Have We Here? Portraits of a Life. The list of programs is endless, and it is no wonder that by the end of FY23, the MLK Library was welcoming more than 70,000 visitors each month. As we strive to bring people back downtown and back into our libraries in all 8 wards, DC Public Library is committed to investing in safety. The safety of our visitors and staff was a primary concern for the library in 2023. It remains so today and will be in the future. Many of our locations experience an uptick in incidents of violence and potential violence, including the horrific murder of a resident at the Petworth Library last April, and the arrest of a man carrying 6 handguns at the Woodridge Library in September. According to MPD data, there was a 58.8% increase in violent crimes and a 38.5% increase in property crimes in and around libraries between October 2022 and October 2023. Bullets struck the Anacostia Library 5 times last year. One incident sent staff and patrons running for cover as bullets penetrated the windows. Violence is not an issue unique to DC Public Library. Libraries around the country are struggling to balance the need to remain welcoming, barrier-free spaces with the need to confront the urban realities of rampant gun proliferation, untreated mental illness, and increased youth violence. We are fortunate to have hired a new director of safety and security in June. Dr. Tanya Chapman has more than 30 years of experience in law enforcement and public safety. In her short time here, she has worked with us to develop a list of initiatives that we are implementing in 2024 and, budget permitting, 2025 to create an even safer environment for residents and staff. We are also pleased to have invested additional resources to address the needs of residents experiencing homelessness, mental health challenges, and other barriers to full participation in civic life. We continue to hire peer specialists who provide residents with emotional support and a direct connection to community services, shelter, food, vital documents, and other life-changing resources. We expanded the peer program in FY23 to hire a new Health and Human Services Assistant Manager and have transferred our peers from grant-funded positions to locally funded positions. DC Public Library continues to serve as a center for internet access and digital citizenship. In June, with funding received from the Federal Communications Commission's Emergency Connectivity Fund, we completed the ambitious distribution of 10,000 internet-enabled Chromebooks. Intended to address the technology gap that was exacerbated by the pandemic, we partnered with agencies such as Child and Family Services, Department of Aging and Community Living, Office of Returning Citizens Affairs, and others to get devices in the hands of residents who need them the most. In 2023, we expanded our Digital Navigator program to now include 5 staff trained to assist library customers in finding solutions to their technology needs through one-on-one on-demand help. The Navigators had a total of 3,371 customer interactions since the beginning of FY23, often spending up to 30 minutes supporting customers in expanding skills and achieving their specific goals. Navigators are currently working in the Anacostia, Benning, Mount Pleasant, and MLK libraries. In addition, as of earlier this week, they are working at the Arthur Capper Recreation Center as a temporary new service that is being offered during the renovation of the Southeast Library at Eastern Market. The borrowing of books, ebooks, and other materials is what we call circulation in libraries, surpassed 7 million in FY23, an achievement I would have thought unattainable just a few years ago. The impressive increase requires some context. In-person borrowing of physical material has been decreasing since before the pandemic. The growth in usage has been driven by the circulation of DCPL's ebooks and other electronic materials. The 2.9 million electronic items borrowed last year represents close to a 100% increase since 2019. The insatiable demand for electronic materials poses some unique challenges for the library that I'll save for our budget hearing in April. The bottom line is that residents are accessing more content than ever before, and we are continuing to adapt to the shifts in how people are using libraries and accessing library content. Shifting to DCPL's capital improvement program, 2023 was the first year in recent memory that did not involve the opening of a new or modernized library, nor the closing of a library for construction. That didn't mean that we weren't busy working on active capital projects and continuing to think through the evolution of Next Libris, our 2020 facilities master plan. We worked throughout the year on permitting and other details of the Southeast Library that we finally closed last month. for a major expansion and modernization. We are also pleased to join the Deputy Mayor for Planning and Economic Development and the Department of Parks and Recreation on engagement toward a new Chevy Chase Library, new community center, and housing. Last month, DEMPED issued an RFP seeking proposals to redevelop the entire 73,000 square foot Chevy Chase Civic site. We continue to make progress toward breaking ground on a new library in Congress Heights. Together with the same Perkins and Will Turner construction team that designed and built the award-winning Southwest Library, we are refining the design of the new building that will redefine library services for Ward 8 residents. Other projects with FY24 funding include the replacement of our Deanwood and Northwest 1 co-located libraries. We are currently working with WMATA to finalize an agreement that will allow us to build a new library adjacent to the Deanwood Metro Station. We continue to work on site identification for a new library in Eckington Edgewood to replace the Northwest 1 library. In addition, there is $5 million in the library's FY24 budget for the acquisition of land or property for a new library on Kennedy Street. We've had preliminary conversations with agency partners about this project and will work with them to provide the council and impacted advisory neighborhood commissions a status update by June, as mandated by the legislation that was passed last year. DCPL will also be working on 2 small capital projects that will result in buildings that better serve their neighborhoods. Design should be complete for a refresh of the Petworth Library by late summer. Construction should begin by the end of the calendar year for what we anticipate will require a 6-month closure. A more intensive intervention will be required for an interior renovation of the Shaw Library. We hope to have a timeline in the near future that we will share with the committee and the community. I'd like to close, as always, by offering my thanks to the committee for inviting me to testify. I'd like to thank the library's Board of Trustees for its guidance throughout the year, all of our friends groups, and the DC Public Library Foundation, who all add immense value to our work in the community. Thanks, of course, to Mayor Bowser and her administration for their work with us. And finally, as always, I extend my appreciation to the staff of the DC Public Library who continue to work hard under trying conditions. I am joined by members of the library's executive team. We look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Director. I do want to note we are joined by Ward 1 Councilmember Brianna Doe, Ward 4 Councilmember Janice Lewis George, and at-large Councilmember Christina Henderson. I'll start with my round, then we'll go to the other members. Director, you know there is a need to close the literacy gaps across the city, and that gap has widened during the pandemic and after the pandemic. I just want to know what is the library doing to address those needs of Washington, D.C. and helping not just younger students or older students and adults learn how to read?
I mean, that's, depending on who you ask, council member, that remains the central reason why we exist here, right? Not just getting books in the hands of people, but getting them to appreciate the value of learning and loving to read. If you, go to the responses that we submitted if you go to see the responses that we submitted to the questions that we received from your committee, we go through a whole laundry list of activities, from participating in book distribution programs around the city for children of all ages, for working with partner agencies on getting books into people's homes, on having a whole suite of programs that we offer at our Adult Literacy Center to get older adults reading, and of course, understanding that literacy is much more so than just reading words in a book, but also understanding that, as one of the public testifiers mentioned, the world has moved inexorably online. So digital literacy is just a crucial component of overall literacy. It's again crucial to the library's mission, and it's something that we take very seriously, in every location of the library system. I can't hear you, council member.
We've heard even about public safety in and around libraries. You spoke to it. I mean, you've listed the incidents from northwest to southeast, and I'm sure there's just a few that you were able to put in your testimony. We even know that we've had shooting several all over the city, and it's not just with Rex; it's been all over, everywhere. And that's been a great concern. How are you all subcontracting, thinking about budget, going to budget season to accommodate the greater need for additional resource around public safety, security, and I guess my last part of how if any coordination and communication is happening with MPD?
Thank you for that question, council member. First of all, great thanks to not just MPD, but also Deputy Mayor Apia, who's met with me a number of times to sort of figure out what we can do from a strategy perspective to help address the safety issues in our libraries. As you know, our libraries represent the best and worst of our communities. We are open to everyone, and whenever we see an uptick in crime in our communities, we see them in our libraries as well. Several members of the public who testified earlier talked about the need for additional officers. We certainly agree with that proposition. So we are working with the city to see if we can fund additional officers. Ideally, I think at this point, we would want to have an officer, if not a dedicated officer, if not in every building, in most of our buildings, because not only do we think it makes a safer environment, I think our staff, we've spoken to staff quite a bit. I go out every month and I speak to staff all over the city. And this is something that I hear over and over and over again from staff, that's something that we could use. We've got other ideas. We're thinking in this current fiscal year of engaging with some contract security personnel that would help, especially during the after school hours up until closing. As I mentioned in my testimony, public safety is not just about officers, but it's also about making sure that we can, help those individuals who are coming into our libraries that may be experiencing trauma or mental illness. So bringing on individuals like our peer navigators or our, any of our social services staff can help perhaps steer residents to resources and, cross fingers, don't have to involve them with the justice system or the carceral system. So it's a huge concern. As I talk to my staff and my board all the time, I would never have dreamed that I spend so much time talking about security, having worked in libraries for 30 years. But it really is like first and foremost on my mind at all times as we think about library services.
Thank you. We had a meeting with some teenagers about 2 to 3 weeks ago, and they were phenomenal young people from all over the city, and they desired to have greater programming in our city. I do know that you all started what was a teen council. What's the function of teen council, and how did you recruit them, and what are they actually doing?
Sure. And maybe I'll preface this by saying, the council member, we are really, really excited to bring on a new director of youth and family services who's starting with us next month.
Okay.
Rockstar, who is got a ton of great ideas, and I look forward to working with her and implementing them to augment what we're doing for teens and other kids around the system. The Teen Council is a relatively simple program. We bring teens on to the library system to, first of all, give them the, almost like we do with the Summer Youth Employment Program, we give them a semblance of what it's like to work in the real world. But what they do for us is that they serve as ambassadors to teen services around the system. They inform our programming. They inform the services that we offer. They do outreach for the library for teen programs, and it's they're great kids and appreciate their work. We work with the foundation on other programs that are specific for teens. I mentioned Know Your Power. Know Your Power is a program that engages kids in all of their creative efforts. You know, one of the things that we always have to be mindful of is that we don't want to ostracize teens who may not be big readers from participating in the library. So
Right.
Know
Right.
Your Power basically engages kids who might be creative in other ways. They could be photographers, they could be painters, they could be musicians. And it's a program that runs throughout the year. We, with the help of the foundation, we offer rewards and prizes. So those are maybe just a couple of examples that I'll share with you.
Got you. And you gave me a list in your testimony. You briefly spoke on the Congress Heights, Deanwood, Edgewood, Eckleton, Kennedy Street. I think you mentioned DCPS. I didn't quite grasp whatever you said at the Kennedy Street. You should have had two locations. And you also mentioned Petworth coming on board by late summer. We're looking to hear from them. I'm assuming that some of the members have questions about that. So I'll come back to that in my second round if it has not been asked, because I want those members to hear that for those who are in those particular wards. Just want to get that on your radar. Just see an update on where we are with all the proposals we've heard from several communities about some of these potential locations, especially Kennedy Street, Petworth, Juanita Thornton. Let me look what else I got. Chevy Chase. We talked about the West End Lane. So if you can have some of this prepared to speak to the director. Mary Alice talked about Ward 3, DC Public Library branch is closing for 1 hour early. Trying to make sure the libraries are open when people are getting off work. So some of this on my radar to come back to in the second round. I know that in the Southwest Library, you had credible messengers designated to the facility. Are there other credible messengers at any other facilities or violence intervention workers?
I'll ask my staff to correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we only have credible messengers at Southwest at the moment. Joy, is that right?
No, we have credible messengers currently at Rosedale, Rich.
Okay, thank you. Just Rosedale?
Yes, just Rosedale at the moment.
Okay. And are we seeing the community and especially youth and young adults interacting with them? What are they doing there, and what's the goal of them being there?
I'll let Tiffany Alston is our DC Public Library's Chief of Public Services, overseeing basically everyone that you interact with when you walk into a branch. Tiffany, can you elaborate just a little bit on the work that we had with the messengers? I will say before you do, we first started this program in partnership with DYRS at the Shaw Library, and it was a really successful, it was a very successful intervention. It was short-lived, but we were having lots of issues at Shaw, and the credible messengers, I think, were able to redirect some of that maybe negative energy into some positive interactions. But go ahead, Tiffany.
Absolutely. So to Rich's point, when we started this program at Shaw, we did extend it to Southwest, and it was working so well in collaboration with our library police department that it was no longer needed, and we were able to move it along and work with the Rosedale Library, which was having some challenges with the youth, and we wanted to engage them more. So what it is that we have a representative or representatives that are from the area or relatable with the kids, who help the staff connect with the youth in a different way, where they're able to hear one another, create creative programming, have engagement, and build relationships. So that's really the basis of the relationship in the program. And what makes it a success is that building of their relationships. We know that's very important, especially for youth to be seen, right? You acknowledge them as they're walking in. How you doing, Tyrone? How you doing, Cherie? To say their names and acknowledge them, and not them just be another person walking in and out.
Director, thank you. What is your vision for providing space and opportunities for certifications? We heard one lady talk about
The IC3?
yeah, IC3, Miss Adowu,
Yeah.
IC3. But what else are you guys offering at your locations?
So the IC3 or Microsoft Office certification, these are, I think, the two popular ones that we're delivering out of our Adult Learning Center here at MLK. I believe that that's all we're doing. Of course, we've got software like LinkedIn Learning that offers other types of certification. These are databases that we subscribe to.
Oh.
Joy, Tiffany, if you guys have any other examples, we can talk about them. But in terms of the in-person certification, that is taking place at our Adult Learning Center here at MLK.
I want to follow with you, the director. I didn't know I was 2 minutes over. My time was 3 minutes, so I'm gonna digress. I want to follow back up with you with them offerings with the Office of Out of School Time. Councilmember Janice Lewis George.
Thank you, Chair White, and good afternoon, Director and
Good afternoon.
for amazing staff. Let me first start off and just say, I know I speak for all libraries, but Warford Libraries, particularly our librarians, have been working incredibly hard. They have put together such thoughtful, cultural, sensitive, and understanding programming. When I think about Juanita Thornton, they put together sort of a reading hour in Amharic for like Ethiopian Eritrean families. In Petworth, we had so many opportunities. So I just want to say kudos to the librarians and those who are doing the programming in all of your libraries. They're doing phenomenal. And you all are doing on a large scale a phenomenal job of programming, having Angela Davis, the Go-Go's on the Roof. I mean, it's just been phenomenal. So I want to start and let you know, I'm just blown away about the way you all have been doing that work, and your communication has been top tier. Please tell whoever runs the Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, they give them a raise. They deserve it. They've been doing a great job.
Ixnay on the A's Ray. Just kidding.
Thank you.
Diego's awesome. Thank you for those compliments, council member. I take them to heart. I love everything that we're doing at the library, and looking forward to doing more.
Awesome. You know where my questions are gonna go. You know me well.
No idea.
I've been here for the last 3 years, every day. Because this is just such a win-win-win for us across the board. A win for DMPED, a win for DCPL, and a win for Ward 4 constituents, which is the Kennedy Street Library. And now I'm even more excited because there's like a shovel-ready site. DMPED met with them and saw the plans and how amazing it could be. And this is a community that's like, I know you have some communities who are fighting against housing and libraries together. We are like, please give us housing and library. We would love it. Or innovative space that includes libraries, housing, or something with community. I put $5 million was allocated to DCPL to acquire land to build a new library to serve those neighbors. And that funding became available October 1. Both your responses, DMPED's responses in pre-hearing and your responses in pre-hearing were sort of conflicted in the regards to like, I think it's them. I think it's them. I think it's both of you.
Yeah, for sure. And we agree with that.
And, I talked to DMPED director, and they expressed willingness, to release an RFA and come up with a win-win solution for us. And they just need to know sort of what DCPL requires as part of a project to meet its needs and to implement multi-use projects. So I just wanted to know, have you shared that information with DMPED? Where are we on, acquiring this space and using the dollars that were placed in the law? And how do we make this a win-win-win for all of us?
Thank you, council member. Zach Israel is right. I did meet with a new deputy mayor, I guess, Nina Albert, back in December. Had many things to talk about over the course of an hour, including Kennedy Street. I needed to make sure that she was apprised of the legislation that you all had passed. And to your point, everyone is in agreement that this is something that working together could be, an interesting win-win for everyone. That the library, and I'm not pointing fingers because I completely agree with you that this has to be collaborative. The library does not have the authority to purchase land. So I'm leaning in. We are working both with the deputy mayor's office or DGS, if DGS has to be involved, I'm happy to participate in any RFP selection, have any conversation that I need to have in order to basically, abide by the legislation that was passed. Yeah, I don't have much of an update beyond that. It felt like that meeting with the deputy mayor was actually, it was just a month ago. It was right before Christmas, and it's on our radar, and along with a bunch of other things. I don't have any other information for in terms of the program that we've not shared a program with DEMPED or anybody else. I'm very heartened to hear that you are thinking flexibly about what a new space could be. And you've talked about this in the past, that you're not necessarily, this is more about a community learning space. And so, it could be maybe a different staffing model. It could be something that is maybe not what we're doing at Petworth or what we're doing in Cleveland Park. So that's all I can update you on there, council member.
I mean, because I'll tell you, and I meant to say kudos to the mobile library folk too, and the mobile library. When mobile library comes on Kennedy Street, I mean, it's the biggest hit ever. Everyone loves it. And I think, mobile library is sort of limited, but it becomes this resource in that sense. So I know that you have this sort of visionary thought as well to how we can make places and spaces useful, have library, space and areas there, but also bring in other community incentives. And so I spoke to Director Albert maybe a couple weeks ago, so January, and we talked about what that would look like. I really just need sort of, we have the $5 million. It loaded in October. It's February. So sort of the space and place we are in right now is sort of not, as my community member said, and my ANC commissioners are like, what's happening, what's going on, and why are we not doing this? So we need that willingness. I know you mentioned Mr. Israel actually asked a question about the capital appendices report that indicated DCPL will not start site finalization until fall 2025.
I've never heard that. I'd love to see where that is written, but that's news to me.
Okay. And I think he indicated, is it DCPL's position that future funding for design, construction, operations of the new library must be identified before the site can be acquired?
No, I don't believe that that's necessarily the case.
Okay. And then I think she said DCPL seemed to suggest in its pre-hearing responses that all 25 million under DCPL's capital project, SPL 37 for the Warfare Library project would be utilized entirely for rebuilding or renovating Shepherd Park at existing site over the next 6 years. And I think we narrowed that language and made sure that each of them were the same. And so I just wanted you to respond to that piece. How are you all actually planning on spending that money?
I mean, and you'll refer to my facilities master plan more than I do these days, council member. Look, it is my, and I'll say, this is not just my opinion. I think this is broadly believed by most people who I speak with. The Shepherd Park Library, understanding the legislation that mandates it be right where it is, it needs to be rebuilt. Otherwise, it needs to be thoroughly rethought. And I'd love to tour it with you. I mean, there are serious issues in that building related to accessibility, related to all the program that we put together in all our beautiful libraries. Everyone deserves a Lillian J. Huff library. Everyone deserves a Southwest library. Yeah. And Shepherd Park is not it. So if there's going to be two libraries, there should be funding for two libraries, and we should not try to commingle, and we can't shortchange one library for another. So if you're all in, then we've got to be all in. That's my 5
million. When I'm thinking about the DEMPED project, it's more like looking at, you're doing this amazing work around civic core, and I know all that's backlash. What I'm talking about with DEMPED was something more of a private-public sort of partnership, which I think makes it different in that respect.
No, I agree.
So that's why the 5 million would be utilized for sort of going to that public-private partnership. Yeah. So I guess my only ask is a commitment to just continue communication, possibly just every month, I would just like an update on where we are, if that's possible.
Legislation says June.
I mean, yes, but an update of where we are on acquiring or spending the money. I don't want the land that is owned by like Ward 4 developers. It's shovel ready, has all its permits to be lost.
Great. Well, maybe we could take advantage and also just talk a little bit at the same time about our little Petworth refresh.
Got
So
it.
it would be great to sit down with you in the next couple of months and give you an update on anything going on in Ward 4, frankly.
Got it. So Petworth update for Teen Spaces, it sounds like you said late summer.
We had just brought on our construction and design team. Literally, the ink is drying on that contract. So we expect for the design to be worked on over between now and the summer, and between permits and the like, we expect construction to begin at the end of the calendar year. And very happy to provide monthly updates on where we are there too.
Ride-free cards for seniors. We talked about this. The GM agrees.
Love it. Love it.
We got the GM and you both who know how to make things happen. I know for a fact from the work you both have done. The seniors are ready for y'all to announce that they can pick up free cards, ride-free cards at the libraries. When y'all rolling this out?
We are starting very soon at MLK, and then we hope to we hope to roll it out to more branches. There are some union conversations that have to take place. But we've been talking about this for forever. The library actually used to do this before I came here 10 years ago. We think it's, as I talked to General Manager Clark, libraries and mass transit, there's a real symbiosis there for all sorts of things. We had a little pop-up store here before the holidays. We were selling WMATA merchandise. I want to strengthen that partnership because it can only help us. And so look, we'll let you know when it's at MLK, and we'll keep you posted on when we're going to roll it out to branches.
Okay. Councilmember Trayon, I'm just ask one really quick question because I'm going to have to give you the rest of my questions because I have to run.
Okay.
Director, my only comment is this, we had the horrible murder that happened at Petworth. And when the information came out about the individual who both was harmed and the individual who was killed, it came out that they were both unhoused residents and they both had some very serious mental health conditions. I know Councilmember Trayon White talked to you about Deputy Mayor Appiah. My question for you is sort of how are you working with or communicating with the mayor and the city administrator to say, look, back when I grew up, we had St. Elizabeth, a space and places for people who had severe mental health issues, and that was a place for them to go. It also unhoused residents, the voucher process in the early, and this is not recent, in the early 90s, and things worked quicker. So I just want to know, or just say to you, you got to also communicate with the city administrator and the mayor about how important it is for us to have mental health institutions here in our city, and how important it is and how for us to quickly get these housing vouchers and things happening, and for DBH to be able to really do some of that support around substance abuse. If not, your libraries are going to suffer, and I know you know that, but I think it's a higher conversation, not just with Deputy Mayor Appiah, but with the mayor and the city.
Councilmember Janice Lewis George. We're going to move toward one councilmember who's also a member of this committee, Councilmember Brianna Doe.
That's me. How is everybody today? Looking good. Well, I only have one question, and you probably know what it is. First, I'm going to start off by saying you all are doing a great job. I am very grateful for you. And I want to share a little bit about how my relationship with the libraries has evolved over the years, because I think it in a lot of ways illustrates how our residents also utilize the library in different ways. And I grew up as a kid who loved the library, and I would do the summer reading challenge and just hang out there in the summer, which tells you a lot of things about me. And it's a place that I've loved as an adult as well. And now in my job, mostly utilize it for ANC meetings and community gatherings and things like that. But also now that I have kids, it's been a really special place for us. So I have a 6-year-old who is an early reader and loves to read. I mean, you gotta watch her every night to make sure she hasn't turned the light back on to read after you've put her to bed, which is pretty awesome. And for me, it's just so amazing to see. And I love to see that in other kids as well. And so now the library is a place where we go to get her more books and all of her favorite series and her graphic novels and all of that. And in addition to that, it is the place that her Girl Scout troop, which I am now a leader of, utilizes for our bi-monthly meetings. And we shop around. We're using all different libraries based on what's available and what our needs are. And it's now become a thing where our family, when we go to the Girl Scout meeting, we bring all our books, we return them, we pick out some new ones, bring some home for her little sister. And it's become this really amazing thing for us. And I'm telling that story because I just want to acknowledge how important and special libraries are for so many reasons in our community, and not always the ones that you think. I think we're scheduled to come to the Mount Pleasant Library in a couple of weeks for a puzzle swap, because we've now become very into puzzles. So it's just, I just wanted to start by saying that, because I think you're getting a lot of acknowledgement for your work today, as is warranted. And I wanted to add to that as well. So,
Thank you.
Absolutely. Okay, so my one question is about the system-wide needs assessment. Okay, so in FY24, my committee sent over $50,000 to conduct a public engagement and use analysis study for a new public library in the U Street area to address a service gap identified between Adams Morgan, DuPont Circle, U Street area. And I see you've broadened the RFP to a comprehensive system-wide needs assessment and upped the ante with $950,000. This is obviously beyond the funding and scope that I had set out. But the new one doesn't necessarily mention what we had asked for. So I want to hear what the study's going to do and how it'll incorporate what we requested, so that we're not back where we started on that.
Yeah, absolutely, council member. And remind me to talk to you about my horrible Girl Scout story from the Brooklyn Public Library, where they were basically picketing outside of our office. Anyway, it's a good one.
Girl Scouts will do that. One thing about Girl Scouts is they are girl-led, and you cannot control them because they have their own minds.
I get it. So to your point, we are rolling, and thank you for the funding, the U Street study, as we call it, into a larger engagement that you mentioned, and we submitted that in our testimony. But the U Street study is very much, and every single dollar that was earmarked for U Street will be spent on U Street. And we've also mentioned that we are doing a whole update on our facilities master plan. As you might know, certainly Councilmember Lewis George knows that, I've got some serious reservations about some of the recommendations in that plan, where we need to grow, how library usage has changed. So we will fold in the results. It'll be a separate, something that we can share with you, but we're going to fold in some of those recommendations and findings into our larger facilities master plan update, which we hope to have by the end of the year. But rest assured, we're not looking to use some of that funding for something greater. This is all going to be devoted to the basically the U Street, North DuPont Circle, that area that was identified by the original facilities plan that would need to be looked at because of the oversubscription of residents in some of the nearby libraries.
Fantastic. And with that, I will leave you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, council member.
Thanks, Chairman.
Thank you. We're going to go to at large Councilmember Christina Henderson.
Thank you, Chairman White, and good afternoon, Director. I want to also echo the praise of my colleagues in terms of the work that your team has been doing. The special events have been so well attended, and folks love it. My kids and I, we went to the Frozen, which was a packed out house situation. And I think it really is bringing in an entirely different, I don't say genre of people, but folks who wouldn't necessarily come to the library because they might not necessarily think they have an interest in books, but they're coming in for the cafe. Mary Ann's is popping every time I'm in there.
Always.
And so kudos to your team and the work that you all are doing. I wanted to ask a few questions. So first, I think I missed it in your testimony, but you originally had your target for FY23 in terms of library visits as 1.12 million. I'm pretty sure you all exceeded that number. Yes?
I don't think in terms of the performance plan, I actually don't have right in front of me what our target was. Our visits across the system was 3 million, basically 3 million and small change, which was a 19% increase over last year. Most of it due to just the increasing popularity at MLK, which almost doubled in visits from last year to this year.
Yeah, I think that MLK, obviously a great location, but the activations, I saw the Da Vinci, like there's just people just sort of teaming. And I think it's an excellent opportunity too, because we're also getting people who are coming from the Portrait Gallery, and then other things. And they're like, oh yeah, let's pop into the library and do those pieces. I want to ask a question about special events that take place, not that you all sponsor, but that you all rent out your space for. You and I had talked before about some of the issues, well, the early issues with catering and how that was a detractor for nonprofit organizations and local organizations to rent the space. We've resolved that issue, but have you all done an analysis to look back to make sure that nonprofits are being able to use the spaces available at MLK in comparison to just the full pay private events, conferences, weddings, etc.?
Yeah, actually, we've got something that I can send you or your staff immediately. We did do an analysis of who's using the space. And, thanks to your advocacy and the advocacy of the mayor and some other folks, we did create a new pricing structure to be, I think, more accommodating to local DC nonprofits. The feedback we've gotten has been overwhelmingly positive.
Right.
They are the vast users of the space. So it's great that they can have, DC Scores and all these other organizations having their galas up on the 5th floor is great. I sneak into all of them. And it's so it's working. We can send you the data around how it's been used. But the private rentals, meaning like the individual who's looking to get married, or even the corporate rental, those are a small fraction of the users of that space.
Okay. I mean, I'm not saying that's necessarily a bad or good thing. It is a thing that exists. I think what we're seeing though, so for instance, people don't know that there's spaces at DC Water that you could rent out. And so I wonder, to the extent that you all are doing some marketing around your space with event planners in the city, so that they know, in that area, the National Building Museum is not the only option.
I mean, I talk to our events team about this all the time. I mean, frankly, they're worried about, we're almost at capacity. When you think about private rentals, you think about all the great programs that we're doing that are not private rentals. There's not a lot of growth for us right now at this point. We generated, I think, almost $1 million between event rental and catering and maybe our passport services. We're almost at capacity with the existing staffing levels that we have. But, philosophically, we can always talk about whether we should be doing more of it and whether we should be investing more into it.
No, I think this is a good problem to have. And I think it's a better understanding too, that you guys, to generate almost to hear a library generate almost $1 million, is pretty incredible.
All of which is going back into our programming.
That's what I was going to say. All of which is going back into the programming to bring folks like Angela Davis.
That's exactly right.
Beth Ann Hardison, or I think you have Blair Kelly, who's coming later this month. Yeah, be following what's going on. Your social media people, they're good. They're really, really
are.
good.
Thank you. Our comms team is top notch. They're fantastic.
Okay. Let me ask about some of the capital projects. So we recently received a reprogramming request for the Southeast Library, about $4.69 million coming out of the General Improvement Libraries project line. You all normally budget very well for your capital projects. So why this unexpected increase needed for Southeast Library?
I mean, you ain't seen nothing yet. We are, anybody that works in construction will tell you that we're seeing incredible increases in escalation is a serious issue. Every couple of months, we're getting new estimates as to what things will cost. Southeast is a particularly challenging project because of all the underground excavation. It's historic site. We are getting started a lot later than we had wanted. The city, I'm very grateful. Last year, they moved $10 million into this project, and we are still augmenting that with more.
Okay, so what's the impact though going to be on general improvement? I mean, is there something that you're going to have to significantly delay because of this?
I hope not. I mean, short term, we do have some money in our general improvements budget. There is also an opportunity for some federal funding that could help us, specifically at Southeast, which would be fantastic.
Okay.
I don't, Joy, do you want to share anything based on your knowledge?
Well, hold on. I got like 3
Okay,
minutes.
sorry.
Hold on.
Because
Sorry, Joy. I want to
think
ask
we've
about
got some other-
Rosedale,
Yep.
the Rosedale Library project, and ask what the status of for that project as well.
So both at Rosedale and for the Northwest One replacement library, we're in the sort of the soft site selection process. Both these buildings, it's actually a little bit more complicated. For Rosedale, we have been looking and we continue to look. We're using a great partner called Key Urban to evaluate possible sites within a reasonable distance of the existing library that could be suitable for acquisition if there's an appetite for it. Of course, we don't have a budget for acquisition.
Okay.
Just last week, I went and spoke to the local ANC. There were maybe 40 or 50 people, maybe 30 more online. At least in that initial engagement, there was a lot of unanimity around building a new library on the site of the existing co-located library.
Okay.
We're exploring that. Obviously, we need to work with DPR and DGS. We are doing right now some test fits to see what would be possible on the existing footprint without having to ask DPR to encroach on any of their program, right? We don't want to take over their basketball court or their playground or their football field or their rec center. So there's a lot going on at Rosedale, and more to come. Most of the funding for that project comes in 25.
Okay, so we have time to sort of check in on that. I wanted to ask about collections. So, we've put some additional funding in for the last few years to help in terms of collections, particularly the online collections. Have we seen an increase here? I want to, in that, I've seen some other libraries at the end of 2023, they posted like, these were the top 5 or top 10 books that were released. Did we do that too?
Yeah, we do that.
Okay, but sorry, go ahead on collections.
Yeah, we did that and we posted on social media, and I think I even did a news piece on it. It's always fun to talk about what people are reading and also what formats are being checked out, those sorts of things. Yeah, so I don't know if you caught my testimony or read it, but we had the largest circulation we've ever had in FY23 with 7 million circs.
Wow.
And we've had 100% increase in the use of our electronic material, 100% increase just since FY19.
I'm just saying, sometimes it's easier to get the electronic than it is to get a physical book get off the hold list.
Yeah. And the mayor's tired of me asking and saying like, hey, this is great. It's a great look, I think the word I used in my testimony was insatiable. People have really adopted ebooks, and we know, and I've talked to you at length about the problems with ebooks in terms of licensing and costs. Yes. Use of our physical collection, at least that initial borrowing of a book at a station or with a staff member, that has, it increased a little bit from last year, but in general, that's been declining for like the last decade.
Okay.
But it doesn't make our collections needs any less. So I told Councilmember White that I'd be bothering him with more information about that for our budget hearing. because I
Okay.
ultimately think it's going to be a budget issue for us.
I look, I think this is great to as a reader, as someone who wants people to use the public resources in the library, as someone who themselves last year did a like a pledge to not buy any books, so
Good
I
for
had to
you.
use the library. I think this is a great issue to have, and I also want to give a shout out to whoever is your holds team. The team that gets everything to the various locations, they too need kudos because
Yeah, it's our circulation team, our facilities team, our truck drivers, our collections team. It's a lot moving stuff around the system, but overall residents are very happy with how quickly they get their holds.
Councilwoman, do you need more time?
No, I'm good. Thank
Mr.
you so
Parker is
much.
okay with that.
No, Councilmember Parker is like he wants his time. I'm good.
He gave that
Thank you,
smile.
Director.
Thank you,
Right.
Councilmember.
Ward 5 Councilmember Zachary Parker, go right ahead.
Thank you, Chairperson White, and it's great to be with you all. Director, good to see you again. I'm going to continue with the praise, and then I'm going to lift up a few questions. I can't say enough about our libraries in Ward 5. We love them. We use them frequently for events, and so want to thank you all for always creating a welcoming environment. I asked my team, what are some of the shout outs that they would ask that I give? So I'm just going to rattle through some of these because we should use these opportunities to lift up praise, not just criticism and questions. So Joy and Tiffany, one of my team members said you all are super responsive to our office. Whenever we have a question on maintenance or other issues, you are quick to follow up. I'm not just saying that because you're on the screen either. The book on Wheels wagon, space and being able to utilize space for free. That is something I think as a committee and a council we certainly should revisit in relation to our rec centers. Someone said DCPL is the best. We should have a praise party. A shout out for David Gatson, the branch manager at Lamont Riggs, COVID tests and other healthcare resources. And the list goes on and on and on. So I want you to know from the Ward 5 Council office, you all are appreciated and we love our libraries. Director, I wanted to start with the new branch for Eckington and Edgewood. We know that in the next year's fiscal year budget, it will be fully funded, yet in your responses, it seems like you're projecting it to open in 2030. Why that gap, and what can we do to accelerate bringing that branch on earlier?
Councilman, first of all, thank you for the praise, and we'll amplify that from my staff who love to hear it. Our capital projects are a lot more difficult to predict when we are looking at different sites, when we might be working with Demphead, for example, on a possible solicitation for a mixed use. The issue with Edgewood and Eckington is frankly that we have not landed on the exact spot where we want that library to be. And it's not for lack of trying. We still have an active, and we've worked with your office. We do have an active site selection process going on. I've walked up and down the MBT. I've looked at spaces on Rhode Island Avenue and other spaces. And we have not yet landed on the right space and the right vehicle for development, standalone, mixed use. My board has, they want us to go mixed use at every single opportunity because they want to help address the housing crisis in DC. As soon as we have landed on a space, council member, I'll let you know, but it's not for lack of effort and it's not for lack of wanting to go ahead with this. It's a project that is, we've heard from many members in that part of the city that they're really excited about it. And we just need to find the right site before we can move forward.
That is helpful, and we continue to stand ready to assist with identifying potential locations. And so happy to follow up there. One quick follow-up, in terms of the engagement that you were doing with community stakeholders, what is the status of that? Is that on hold? Is that ongoing? And when do you anticipate publishing findings of community stakeholder priorities?
let me pause for a sec. You know, we have met with some of the ANCs that are impacted. We've done some, you know, on the ground work with community members. I'm going to pause for a second, council member, and ask our Chief of Staff, Joy Mex, who might have more information about the list of engagement that we've done over there. Joy, do you have anything that you can add?
Sure, and I will just say we're sort of doing it in phases as the site selection is in phases. So we've done some initial engagement with stakeholders, ANCs, civic association members to ascertain sort of where sites could be located, their appetite. And once we sort of narrow down a site that works for the library, we want to go back out and do some engagement to say, okay, what do you think about this? Are there issues we're not thinking about? Are there safe?
And do you plan in the interim to make public your findings or what trends you're identifying?
We will. So our plan is once we've, you know, narrowed down some options, and they're viable options, naturally, we want to share those with community. Yes.
Understood. One quick follow-up on that. I hear you loud and clear, Director. Finding the right location is a challenge. Am I to interpret that as finding a location for the needed footprint, or finding a location for the needed amenities that you're hearing from community stakeholders?
A footprint. Yeah, it's not necessarily like where the if I understand what you mean by amenities.
I know in some of those community engagement conversations I was privy to, you know, community stakeholders wanted parks and or access to the MBT and or and so if that is confining you finding a location, that's one thing, or having a building that
both. It's really both.
Requirements.
Got it. Ideally, when you build a new library, I mean, look, we're a retail shop, just like anything else. We want to be in a space that people are already going to as part of their daily work. You know, we love the MBT as an artery, and we would love to be close to the MBT because we do think that people will then stumble upon the library. You know, in my 30 years of experience, when you build a library that's not near any other amenity, it's not built near a grocery store, mass transit, other things, then that library is typically underutilized. So we will be looking at what are the other amenities, but then also just, you know, the footprint itself.
And what about the Penn Center Annex that I believe DGS owns or has the rights to, but is not using? Has that facility been looked at?
You know, I think this is a recent development. Of course, the library actually had an operations center in the Penn Center for about 4 years, and there are some additional buildings there that I'm not super familiar with. Would love to get back to you on any developments there.
If you could, that would be great. I will say for the record, I think 2030 is too late. And we want to do everything we can, especially if we're funding this in next year's budget, to accelerate the development to bring this online quicker. So we stand ready, as I mentioned, to both identify potential sites, but do everything we can to support this project moving forward.
Great. And I'll just be very transparent here, council member. You know, I'm hearing a lot about accelerating funding forward. You know, there are limits to, you know, we've got a small capital planning team and a small procurement team. We do have to look at the overall portfolio of projects. You know, can't stop you from moving money around, obviously, but you know, in some cases we've asked for money in different years for specific reasons so that we can manage them and give them all the attention that they need. Obviously, I understand when somebody hears the number 2030, it's a little bit.
I appreciate that, but I think even for the constraints that the district is facing and DCPL is facing, funding something fully in 2025 fiscal year and not expecting that until 2030 is just hard to square. I will follow up, but again, I just want to emphasize that this has been identified, it will be funded, and so we should cater to Ward 5 residents in this part of our city that desperately needs this new addition.
Thank you.
I see the clock ticking, and I want to get to two additional questions. One is about retirement and internal HR systems. We've heard from a number of retirees who are Ward 5 residents who complain about delays and or not receiving benefits, either because their paperwork has been lost or not completed by DCPL's Human Resources Department. Are these concerns on your radar, and like what is the agency doing to address the retirement issues that some are experiencing?
I apologize, council member. This is news to me. And we'd love to follow up with your staff and get right back to you, but I have not heard anything. I apologize. The library's chief business officer is ill, and she oversees human resources. She might have some information here, but honestly, I think I would probably be privy to it if there were an issue. Happy to get back to you.
Well, I know at least one of those situations was elevated to DCHR. And it again seems like a delay in paperwork or missing paperwork that impacted people's benefits. I am out of time. I do want to respect the clock. And so thank you, Chairperson White.
Thank you. If you have any additional questions, you can send them to me, and I'll get the responses back from the agency. I do want to note that we've been notified by Office of Cable Television that we will be cut off at 1:30, but we'll continue on with these questions to for our public dialogue and just getting official questions on the record. So I want to thank the other council members who joined to added value and meaningful conversation and questions to move DC Public Libraries right along. And thank you, Director, for your staff for the many answers. With this discussion around the development at Chevy Chase Library, we've heard concerns from residents regarding the potential residential properties in and around the library. Have you heard that, Director? And I know we have met at least 2 years about co-locating space between apartments and libraries. I didn't know if this was discussed in there, but if you heard anything, can you speak to that and what that is?
Specific to Chevy Chase, clearly I know that there's not 100% unanimity on the project that's being proposed. I participated in a 2-day community meeting on Saturday and Sunday a few months back with ANC's, Councilmember Fruman, members of DEMPED. Look, I think the idea is exciting. I think it's, as somebody who champions urban density, I think the co-location is always a good thing. The one thing I should guarantee you is that we are not compromising our program. So if the library determines that it needs 20,000 square feet in a library, that need is going to be addressed in
So how is this, Director, how is that determined?
How are our needs determined?
Yeah.
We look at what we have now, frankly, number one, at a place like Chevy Chase. And then, we've got basically a standard shell that 20,000 square feet, setting aside momentarily all the various elements that go in that 20,000 square feet, how much space to books, how much space to computers, how much space to study rooms, but 20,000 square feet for the last 10 years has been a good number for us to start from. And so that is the number that we are starting from at Chevy Chase as well.
Thank you. I did want to get some details on the Congress Heights / Turner Library, because I know DEMPED is looking at space there in Congress Heights, and I think you spoke to it briefly.
Yeah, this is going to be a standalone library right at the metro station.
Can you repeat that, Director? It went in and out.
Yeah, the parcel of land that was identified for the library is right there on the corner of Alabama Avenue and I guess what's going to be 13th Street, right just to the west, immediately to the west of the metro station entrance.
Yeah.
sort of kind of the bus, basically the bus, not a depot, I forget what it's called. It will be sort of around the library there. But we've got a fantastic looking plan, and would love to share it with you at some point.
Yeah, if you can send it today, I have not seen the
Drawings.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's still
And
preliminary. We're still doing, we're still refining it, but it's going to be.
I understand that, but I want to be able to put my eyes on and give some input to it.
Love it.
Because sometimes when it goes, the architects get it. It's hard to go back because it costs more money to reimagine this and reimagine that, and it pushes the project back even further. So the sooner we're able to see it, the better for me. And I want to ask about parking, there, because that's parking has been an issue all across the district, especially in that corridor.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's this is still a conversation that we need to have with the folks at St. Elizabeth. So right now we've been worrying about the library itself.
Yeah.
Obviously there's plenty of parking at St. E's. I can't.
Yeah, but it's at a distance. I mean, there's not. We had a parking lot that will be closer to that, the potential location of where the library is, or
Let
will
me
go.
I mean, we've heard this obviously, but let me get back to you on thoughts
Okay.
around parking. I know that is less defined right now than our thinking around the new library.
Okay. Um, can you give us a update on the swing space for Arthur Caper Recreation Center for the Southwest Library, Southeast
Yeah,
Library?
we just opened it on Monday.
Okay.
And you know, there's a sign outside the Southeast Library, and you know, we've let people know through our newsletter and stuff that it's there.
Is there a flyer or something you can send me so I can get to the residents there?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. If you can text that to me, or email it to me, I want to get it to some residents today. I have to go down there later on today.
Great. Great. I'll ask somebody who's listening to send me the flyer or the message, and we can text it over. I'll text it over to you.
All right, appreciate that. There are a few capital improvement projects underway, and you spoke to some of them, like Juanita Thornton Shepherd Park, the new 4A library in Parkland. We just spoke to that. I just want to guess, is any details that we haven't heard back from you about these updates? Because I know you skipped through them a little bit, and some of the members asked about some, but I want to make sure we have an update on it, if anything we're missing.
No, I mean, you know, these are future projects. So right now, you know, we've basically breaking ground at Southeast at Eastern Market, Deanwood Library, we didn't talk about, but that's going to be right at the Deanwood Metro Station. Congress Heights, we hope to finish design later this year. Anything that I didn't talk about too much is something that is funded but not active. So Rosedale, the Eckington Library, certainly Shepherd Park. You know,
You mentioned Petworth late summer.
Oh, the small capital project. Yes, Petworth. We should have design will commence at some point in the summer, I believe, and we expect to close the library at the end of the year for about 6 months. That's the
And
plan.
what's the swing space?
Because it's a 6-month project, there's not going to be any swing space.
Okay. And I'll reach out to them because I want to make sure that we are, if they're, you know, even though it's 6 months is a long time when we talk about kids having to have after school program or somewhere to go.
Yeah, I mean, we'll work with the high school across the street, and we make at least we'll get some information out there. Petworth is a well-used library. Our outreach team, I'm sure, will make a concerted effort. You've heard in a variety of testimonies today about the popularity of the library's mobile truck. So yeah, there are definitely things that we will do more of when the library is closed.
Okay, we heard some concerns about the foundation's relationship to some of the friends of. How engaged are you in that? And I guess, as you heard, some of the residents are concerned that they want to help out and be able to empower those who are serving them every day, but they're saying the max of $10 is not enough to buy them a meal. Is there any thoughts around in-
Yeah.
increasing the amount that was allocated? I'm not sure who's that. I'm not even sure if we do that. But also your involvement with the foundation.
I mean, look, in terms of the maximum amount of gifts that can be given by anybody, that's dictated by BEGA, right? Board of Ethics and Government Accountability. We do our BEGA training every single year, and I mean that's the law.
Yeah, that may be something on the council though, I'm thinking.
Yeah, feel free to talk to, I don't know where BEGA falls under oversight, but that would be a conversation with them if they want to increase the maximum.
Yeah.
So that a little bit more can be done. That's entirely up to you. Look, the Library Foundation has been, and I work with them very closely. I sit on the foundation's board. They are a separate 501c3 organization. They've got their own board of directors. They've got their own executive director, a gentleman by the name of Rob Hartman, who I chat with probably every single day and I meet with every single week. And he and the foundation have done a tremendous amount over the past several years to raise money and then give that money back to the library. I believe it donated about $1 million into our library programs and our exhibitions in 2023. They help with Leonardo da Vinci, with all of our author talks. We partner with local bookstores like Mahogany in Ward 8 and with Loyalty. We buy books and we give them away at our programs. All that is done by the foundation. The foundation buys care kits that we give away to our residents that may be experiencing housing insecurity. I believe the foundation bought 5,000 care kits last year. So they do so much for us. And I just can't tell you how much I value that relationship. The Friends do a different thing. We don't ask the Friends to fundraise for us in the way that we ask the foundation to fundraise for us.
Gotcha.
The Friends they're an advocacy group. Certainly, we very much appreciate when they can help out our staff with buying snacks for programs and those sorts of things. But by and large, they serve two very, very different functions.
Yeah, but I guess if we're trying to, strengthen the relationship. I'm not saying they don't have a good relationship. They just wanted to be able to have more leeway because now the way the board structure is set up with the foundation is that it gives a match for the Friends of don't have much money, so a match is not adequate to help assist with the needs that they're getting on a regular basis for those people who are there every day in their perspective or individual libraries.
Yeah, and look, I'll say the foundation came up with this idea to empower more of our branch staff to have basically petty cash to spend on programs and stuff. And they've spent just on this branch enrichment program last year, I think about $30,000, with like $1,000 being committed to every branch or even more so. And that's in partnership with some of the Friends groups that can give more money. So like
Director, I've been instructed that we have to end this hearing, fortunately, but we'll definitely be following up. Thank you and your staff. As a final note to this hearing, if anyone cannot testify but would like to submit a written testimony, you can submit it via email at rya@dccouncil.gov. Or you can submit to the submit testimony button on your right top corner for those who are watching. Official record will close Wednesday, February 21st, 2022. 2024. Wow. At 6 p.m. with no other business before this hearing. It is now 1:32 p.m. on Wednesday, February 15th, and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.